From a blind date came a sister who is a CEO. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 776 Ground Flight. Go take a shower, you're sweaty and smelly. Teo turned back into the heartless little girl and pushed Su Weifeng away. Su Weifeng walked into the bathroom awkwardly and raised his arm to smell it. Is it really smelly? I didn't smell anything. After taking a comfortable hot shower, Su Weifeng felt refreshed and walked into the bedroom with a bath towel wrapped around him. Find me a pair of pajamas. I forgot to bring them when I came, Su Weifeng said to Teo, who was lying on the bed in a daze. At this time, the plush dolls on the bed had all fallen to the ground. Teo saw Su Weifeng coming out, narrowed her eyes, and was about to stretch out her claws to Su Weifeng, but Su Weifeng dodged in one step. I don't have any men's pajamas here, just sleep like this. Hey, you are killing me. After you have used me, you don't care about me anymore, Su Weifeng shouted, and Teo laughed and ran into the bathroom, and the sound of water splashed. Listening to the sound of water in the bathroom, Su Weifeng couldn't help but have an image in his mind, the murderous Lali. As soon as he thought of it, he immediately shook his head and threw the image out. As he became closer and closer to Lin Xuanxuan and other girls, this self-control became weaker and weaker. Su Weifeng was lying in Teo's bed. Although Teo hadn't come back to live for a long time, there was still a faint fragrance unique to girls. Su Weifeng subconsciously sniffed it a few times with his nose. At this time, the bathroom door opened, and Teo also came out wrapped in a bath towel. She didn't change her pajamas and got into Su Weifeng's quilt directly. Brother Su, do we want it? Teo said to Su Weifeng with a sly smile and winked at the same time. Okay, then I'm coming. Su Weifeng knew that Teo liked to bluff, and she would definitely be scared if she really came, so he pretended to pounce. Ah, help me. Teo suddenly grabbed Su Weifeng's arm and screamed. This was her habitual reaction, without thinking. Su Weifeng was startled. This was Teo's home. If someone heard her screaming, they would think he had done something to her. Su Weifeng directly blocked Teo's mouth with his mouth, and her screams turned into sobs. At this time, a servant happened to pass by the door. He was stunned when he heard the sound, and then he covered his mouth and hurriedly left the door. Teo didn't scream this time. She huddled in Su Weifeng's arms with a blush on her face. Su Weifeng noticed Teo's state and felt that something was wrong just now. He and Teo were just starting out, so he really had to be careful about the distance. Suddenly Teo screamed and ran into the bathroom in a hurry, and then the sound of taking a shower was heard again. Su Weifeng suddenly thought of something, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth unconsciously. After a while, Teo came out with a red face. Seeing Su Weifeng looking at her with a smirk, her face became even redder. Are you a man? Teo snorted and got back into the quilt. Su Weifeng was a little confused by this sentence. How come I'm not a man? Did he say that I laughed at her, or? This is a double entendre, but he decided to pretend that he didn't know. He didn't know what to do after he asked. After a while, seeing that Su Weifeng was silent, Teo got into his arms again, feeling particularly warm. Teo gradually liked this feeling, but her heartbeat began to accelerate. Su Weifeng hugged the girl in his arms, calmed himself down with his true energy, smelled the faint smell of shampoo, felt very quiet in his heart, and soon fell asleep. Teo was still nervous at first, and heard Su Weifeng snoring, and wanted to bite him, but then she relaxed, and gradually fell asleep. The next morning, I woke up to Teo's scream again. Both of them were sleeping in bathrobes, and they were hugging each other at this time. Teo hugged Su Weifeng's arm and bit it hard, causing Su Weifeng to scream in pain. In the next few days, Su Weifeng did not return to Yangcheng immediately. He deliberately stayed in Tao's house for a few more days to see if the Su family would come to retaliate, but there was no news. After waiting for several days, and he did not know what was going on. This day, Su Weifeng accompanied Tao in the square to bask in the sun. In Tao Tao's words, it was a sunbath to replenish Yankee, but after looking at Tao Tao's fair skin and his arms, that were a little red from the sun, Su Weifeng wanted to say, you put on such a thick layer of sunscreen and still came out to bask in the sun. What kind of sunbath is this? While the two were enjoying this pleasant time, several young people playing skateboards in the square slid towards Su Weifeng and the others and came to Tao Tao with a power slide, and the skateboard stopped steadily in front of Su Weifeng and Tao Tao. Isn't this Tao Tao? I haven't seen you for a long time. Now you are getting worse and worse, and you are playing with this kind of loser. A young man with golden curly hair mocked. He is also a family member. He is Du Fei from the Du family. He used to play with Tao Tao, but Tao Tao stopped playing with them after he became addicted to computers. Tao Tao, where did you find this guy? You have a very different vision. Haha. A girl with dreadlocks and wheat colored skin said. Her name is Jina. These people are from a club, ground flying, and they all wear hip hop style. When they see a man like Su Weifeng who is dressed normally, they immediately think he is so low class. Tao Tao was also a lolly beauty in the original club, and she didn't expect to be with such a boy. This is Su Weifeng, my boyfriend. Tao Tao said unhappily. Wow, he is Tao Tao's boyfriend. How could such a guy conquer our Miss Tao Tao? It seems that he can't skateboard. Is he good at kung fu? Ha ha ha. Jina stared at Su Weifeng unscrupulously. Tao Tao knew what she was talking about and said coldly, you will know if you try it yourself. Su Weifeng's head was full of black lines. What kind of people did Tao Tao know? This is really unscrupulous. Tao Tao, I chased you for so long, but you didn't agree, and finally found such a rubbish. Du Fei said with a gloomy face. Who are you calling trash? Tao Tao stared at Du Fei fiercely, ready to pounce on him and bite him. Su Weifeng was her boyfriend, so she couldn't say bad things about him. If he's not trash, then what is he? If he's not trash, then it's fine. Have a match with us. If you win, I'll take back what I just said. Du Fei said disdainfully. Yes, we'll know after a match. It's useless to say it's trash. Show some strength. A young man behind Du Fei said. His name was Han Jiao. He was from the Han family, but not a direct descendant. Oh, what are you competing with me for? I'm interested. Su Weifeng said before Tao Tao could speak. He originally didn't care about these people, but since they were scolding him, he couldn't admit that he was a coward. Tao Tao was about to pull Su Weifeng. She knew that Su Weifeng was very powerful and could even defeat the people from the hidden family, but she knew what this ground flying person was best at, and she knew what they were talking about. There was only one thing, that was skateboarding. What are we competing in? Is there even a need to ask? It turns out Teo is also a member of our team, so of course we are competing in skateboarding. Jina said as a matter of course. Chapter 777, Rapid Descent. Tao Tao frowned and glared at Jina and the others. Isn't this obviously bullying? Comparing skateboarding with an outsider? Is there any need to compete? Okay, then let's compete in skateboarding. Su Weifeng looked at the skateboard under Jina's feet and said casually. Brother Su, you can't compete. You are not their opponent. Tao Tao said hurriedly. Haha, the kid has courage, but it's stupid. Du Fei pulled the corner of his mouth and laughed. Mr. Du, this kid is not also a player. Han Jiao whispered to Du Fei. After hearing Han Jiao's words, Du Fei also became suspicious. It stands to reason that someone who has never played skateboarding would not agree to compete with him so easily. Wouldn't that be humiliating himself? But this kid agreed too readily. He couldn't help but look at Su Weifeng, but he didn't look like someone in their circle. Let's do this. We won't bully you. Since you agree to compete in skateboarding, you can choose the event. Du Fei looked at Su Weifeng and said generously. What else is there to compete in skateboarding? Isn't it just like racing cars, seeing who is faster? Su Weifeng really had no experience with skateboarding. In his impression, skateboarding is just a means of transportation. Haha, you don't even know what the event is, and you dare to compete in skateboarding. Jin laughed so hard that she fell backwards. Her low-cut suspenders immediately attracted the attention of many men. I really don't know if this guy is stupid or stupid or stupid. Teo's taste is there. How can she be interested in ordinary people? Only people like this can catch her eye. Ha ha ha. This competition is so boring. In the tortoise and the hare race, the tortoise can at least run. This guy might fall down, even if he stands on the board. These people looked at Su Weifeng as if he was a fool, and they all mocked him. Teo, is there any way to compete in skateboarding? Su Weifeng didn't care about the ridicule of these people, and said to Teo. Teo hated her, but now it was too late to take it back, so he explained. Brother Su, let me give you some general knowledge. First of all, skateboards are divided into 3 categories: skateboards, longboards, and fishboards. Skateboards are this kind of double kick skateboards. The main purpose of this skateboard is to do tricks. And longboards are this kind. The way to play is generally to dance and downhill, which is speed skating on a winding mountain road. Du Fei pointed to the longboard under Jinna's feet and said, and fishboards are generally used as a means of transportation. We don't play that kind. Tao introduced these skateboards in detail. As Tao introduced them, Su Weifeng also looked at these skateboards from time to time and analyzed them quickly in his mind. According to Tao, Su Weifeng knew that this competition should be a choice between the fancy moves of the double kick skateboard and the downhill of the longboard. If it was a fancy move, he would definitely not be able to do it. He didn't even know what moves there were on the skateboard. In comparison, downhill was relatively suitable and relied more on his own reaction ability. He thought that he had no problem standing still, so he had a plan in his mind. So the events of the competition are freestyle and downhill. Tao said again, and it really coincided with Su Weifeng's idea. What do you think, kid? Whichever you want to compete in, you can choose. Du Fei said with a big laugh, seeing that Su Weifeng really didn't know anything. He didn't even know the classification of skateboards, which was not even a novice, which made him nervous for a while. Then let's do downhill. It should be similar to drag racing. Su Weifeng had just thought about it, so he said directly, haha, it's similar to drag racing. Have you ever drag raced? Han Jiao laughed. Where do you want the location? Du Fei said calmly. He thought this competition was just a formality, so easy. You choose the location. I don't know where I can downhill. Su Weifeng said honestly, it was the first time he heard of downhill. How could he know where to compete? But I'll set the time. Wait for me to buy a skateboard first. Su Weifeng said naturally. What? You have to buy a skateboard now? You're selling skateboards now to compete with us? Jinna looked at Su Weifeng as if she had seen a ghost. This baby is so cute, so silly and cute. It's up to you, kid, just don't run away. Du Fei laughed so hard that his stomach hurt a little. This was really a big joke. There were people who bought skateboards now in the competition. The location is at the top of Qingyang Mountain. This is also where we often play downhill. Tao knows that place. Du Fei said casually. Then let's set the time at 7 o'clock tonight. It should be quiet at this time. Su Weifeng thought about it and said seriously. Downhill at night. Du Fei's eyes widened. Brother Su, it's too dangerous at night. Tao hurriedly pulled Su Weifeng's arm and said. You really want to die? You can't even see the road clearly at night. With your level, you will crash down the mountain. Ha 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 ha. Jinna was almost laughing to death. Tao found this kid who made cold jokes every time. He still wanted to kill himself. You don't dare. Su Weifeng said disdainfully. What a joke. Is there anything I, Du Fei, dare not do? Since you don't want to die, that's even better. If you die, Tao will be mine. In the end, they decided to go rappelling at Qingyang Mountain at 7 o'clock in the evening. Du Fei and others laughed loudly, and the others were ready to watch the show. Su Weifeng squinted and smiled at them, but Tao changed her usual heartless look and looked worried. Since the project has been selected, what's the bet? Su Weifeng said calmly. What should I bet on? If you lose, let Tao accompany me for a night. If I lose, I will give you 10 million. How about it? This is 10 million, and you don't have anything to lose. Du Fei looked at Tao, his eyes flashed with desire, and he smiled sinisterly. Dream on, I will never accompany you even if I die. Tao was angry, his eyes were red, and he actually regarded himself as a bargaining chip to sleep with him. What kind of person did he think he was? That's not okay. I can't use my girlfriend as a bet. This is not what a man does. Su Weifeng shook his head and said disdainfully, how about this? If you win, I'll give you 50 million. If we win, you won't play skateboarding anymore. How about this bet? Su Weifeng said seriously. Haha, you're giving me money. I didn't realize you're a rich guy. Du Fei laughed and agreed readily. 50 million is not a small number, even for a young master like him. I didn't expect Tao Tao to hook up with a rich man. He must be an alvorish. Ha ha ha. Jin laughed. Boy, what if you lose and have no money? Then we've played for nothing. Han Jiao thought of a problem and said quickly, that's okay. Don't we have Tao Tao? If Tao Tao has no money, we'll go to the Tao family. It's not that easy to default on my account. Du Fei said confidently. His Du family is not inferior to the Tao family. If Tao Tao defaults, it will be a matter of family reputation. Chapter 778 Limited Edition. After the agreement was reached, the two parties dispersed. The ground flight team also issued a notice that all members would participate in the evening competition. In fact, his team only had more than 10 people, all of whom were from the circle of the rich second generation. People who played skateboards outside could not join their team because they were not qualified. Fujian Shopping Mall is a comprehensive shopping mall. The most important thing is that there is a large skateboard store here with a very complete range of skateboard brands. Tao, look at me quickly. Su Weifeng had been scared by Tao all the way. Tao stared at him as if he wanted to eat someone, and his little face was puffed up like a bun. You agreed to compete with them casually, aren't you asking for trouble? And you compete at night. What if something goes wrong? Tao scolded Su Weifeng, but this little girl became more adorable when she was fierce. Su Weifeng couldn't help pinching her face, which made Tao bite again. You are worried about me. Don't worry, I will definitely win. Su Weifeng said firmly. Humph, who is worried about you? Tao hummed a little embarrassedly, and the anger in his heart disappeared. Sir, madam, what kind of skateboard do you want to see? I can introduce it to you. A girl in sportswear came over. She was the salesperson here. I want a long downhill board. Su Weifeng said directly. Sir, come this way. You can see that these are all special downhill boards. You can try whichever one you like. The salesperson took Su Weifeng and Tao to a downhill board area. This one seems to be different from Jinna's. Su Weifeng already knew the names of those people and pointed to the skateboards here. Of course it's different. Jinna's is a dance board and this is a downhill board. The downhill board is shorter. Tao explained. This one is good. Brother Su, try it. Tao fell in love with a supreme downhill board at first sight and touched it. I listen to you. This is it. The waiter will pack it up. Su Weifeng picked it up and looked at it. He didn't know what was good or bad. He just let Tao choose. Sir, are you sure you want this skateboard? This is a maple board imported from Italy. The entire bridge and wheels are imported. It is a limited edition and is now priced at 99,999. The salesperson looked at Su Weifeng in surprise. This limited edition skateboard was the only one in her store, and ordinary players could not afford it. Seeing that Su Weifeng did not look like a rich man, she could not help but remind him. Yes, this is it. Wrap it up. Su Weifeng said calmly. I want this skateboard. A 20-year-old girl with gorgeous clothes walked into the store. She was a beauty, but her makeup was a bit heavy. If she put on light makeup, she would be more beautiful. The girl was very tall and had the appearance of an internet celebrity. She walked into the store with a fat bald middle-aged man on her arm. I want this skateboard. Hurry up and wrap it for me. I saw it last time. I brought my husband to buy it today, the girl said, and hugged the bald middle-aged man again. Su Weifeng's teeth ached when he saw it. This was too greasy. The girl was at most 20 years old, and the middle-aged man was almost 50, definitely older than the girl's father. When meeting the parents, what should the bald middle-aged man call the girl's father? Uncle or brother? Su Weifeng complained in his heart. Excuse me, ma'am, this gentleman and lady have already asked for this skateboard. At this time, the waiter came over and said apologetically, thinking in his heart, why do you all come to buy this limited edition today? It would be better if you buy more of this high-end stuff on weekdays. The commission is very considerable. This is a limited edition. There is only this one. Ma'am, you can take a look at other models. We have many models here. The salesperson said with a smile. I want this one. The others are all garbage. The woman looked around with disdain. I'll contact other stores. If there is the same model, I'll transfer it to you. The salesperson thought for a while and said, that won't do. I've been waiting for several days. If my husband wasn't busy, I would have bought it long ago. I want it today. Su Weifeng and Tao Tao subconsciously looked at the bald middle-aged man, then looked at the girl, and were full of admiration. This girl really has a strong taste, and can even eat such greasy food. Give me the skateboard. You pick any skateboard here, I'll pay for it. The bald middle-aged man walked up to Su Weifeng and said condescendingly, in his impression, this was his charity, and the young man should be grateful. Who would give up such an opportunity to get a skateboard for free? Wouldn't that be stupid? Su Weifeng didn't even look at the bald middle-aged man, holding the skateboard without any intention of putting it down. Didn't you hear my husband talking? The girl was anxious. Do you know how much this skateboard costs? Can you afford it? The girl said disdainfully. She really didn't realize that Su Weifeng and Tao Tao's clothes were expensive, but they didn't like those with exaggerated big logos, thinking that they were ordinary people. Waiter, pack it for me. Su Weifeng didn't care about such a powerful girl at all, and directly took out a card and handed it to the salesperson. Boy, you are not giving me face. Do you know who I am? The bald middle-aged man was furious. He just picked up a little internet celebrity. Wouldn't this make him lose face in front of her? He was still planning to have some fun, and now he couldn't let her be unhappy. The quarrel here also attracted the attention of other people outside the store. Many people gathered around to watch the fun. Isn't that Wu Liang from the Wu family? Yes, Wu Liang is the most lustful. I heard that he killed hundreds of people when he was young. I didn't expect that he can still find such a little girl now. That girl is his mistress, right? She is really beautiful, much younger than his daughter. She is rich, and it's useless for you to envy her. Keep your voice down. Wu Liang is not easy to mess with. Wu family? Su Weifeng had heard of it, but it was just a family, so he really didn't care about it. They were just writing parasites. Boy, you are looking for death. Wu Liang was furious. With so many people watching, this boy really didn't give him face. Money is small, but face is big. Wu Liang raised his hand and punched Su Weifeng in the face. If you don't give me face, I will give you a good slap in the face today. Su Weifeng's heart was not beating, he was not breathing, and he didn't even blink. He slapped Wu Liang's fat face with a backhand, which made his fat and lips tremble, and his front teeth loose. You dare to hit someone? The internet celebrity girl said as she rushed over and was about to scratch Su Weifeng with her claws. Before Su Weifeng could make a move, Tao Tao slapped him in the face. The internet celebrity girl was also stunned. She didn't expect that the little lolly next to her, who seemed to have zero combat power, would dare to hit her. Chapter 779 5 numbers. Boy, you are looking for death. Soon, two bodyguards in black came running over. They had not entered the store just now, but were waiting outside. They did not come out when they saw the conflict between Wu Liang and the young man. They did not think that the young man dared to take action. Wu Liang would definitely crush the boy to death. They would not come out to steal Wu Liang's limelight. They knew this, but they never expected that the boy would not buy into Wu Liang's account at all. He started to take action as soon as he said he would, without giving them any time to react. Seeing blood flowing from the corner of Wu Liang's mouth, they were also scared. Their job was to protect Wu Liang's safety. This was an obvious dereliction of duty, and they would not have a good result. The two bodyguards were about to rush up and beat Su Weifeng up, but were stopped by Wu Liang. Boy, you dare to hit me, you're dead today. And you, little girl, you hit my girlfriend. This matter will not be let go. Now I'll give you a chance. Boy, kneel down, kowtow to me 100 times, and slap me 100 times. This little girl, come with me to the fitting room. I will punish you personally. Let's have a fight. I'll spare your life today, otherwise you won't see the sun tomorrow. Wu Liang had already taken a fancy to Cao Cao. He had never played with this kind of baby face. His eyes were green. As for letting Su Weifeng go, it was impossible. He just wanted to humiliate him first, and then deal with him. I'll give you 5 counts. 5. Wu Liang smiled lewdly, and began to count. He knew that the 2 young people would definitely surrender to his tyranny, with the background of their Wu family, who in this city, dared not give face. Of course there are so many, but it is definitely not the young couple in front of him. It's over. Should we call the police? Wu Liang is a beast. He wanted to bully a little girl in this store. A girl in the crowd said nervously and angrily, "Keep your voice down. We can't do anything about this. Let alone whether he is okay or not. We can't leave this mall," a young man said, who seemed to be the girl's boyfriend. "It's too outrageous. Too outrageous. What a scum. If he were an ordinary person, I would definitely beat him up," a middle-aged man muttered in a low voice. 2-1 Wu Liang's face became colder and colder. The young couple didn't give in to him. The 2 bodyguards beside him had already rubbed their hands, waiting for their master's order to pounce on them. "Go ahead, beat him up for me," Wu Liang roared, venting his anger. The 2 sturdy bodyguards walked up with an evil smile, their eyes full of cruelty. They were ready to kill him. They would not let him go unless they broke a few bones of this kid today. Cao Cao took a half step back and smiled at the 2 bodyguards. She was ready to watch the show. She knew that Su Weifeng was strong, even stronger than Song Zinan, but this was also acceptable. After defeating the Su family that day, Cao Cao's worldview collapsed. The Su family is a hidden family. They are all people with inner strength. Knowing the existence of these people, she felt a little unreal for a while, as if she was reading a novel. But even such masters who are far beyond ordinary people were defeated miserably in front of Su Weifeng. Now looking at these 2 thugs is like looking at 2 self-righteous idiots, looking for death and still so excited. The 2 thugs came in front of Su Weifeng. As soon as they made a move, they felt their hair being grabbed by a big hand, and then a huge force came, and the 2 heads hit each other with a bang. Fortunately, there was no sound of watermelon breaking. The 2 people's movements were synchronized, and their bodies softened and fainted neatly. "Ah, murder, murder," the internet celebrity screamed. She had never seen anyone so cruel before. They simply treated people as non-human beings. Wu Liang was also shocked. His bodyguards were hired by a bodyguard company. They were said to be retired special forces soldiers. It was no big deal. But how could they be like 2 little chickens in front of this man? He could strangle them to death with just a flick of his hand. Su Weifeng turned and walked towards Wu Liang with a smile on his face, but this smile was the smile of the god of death in Wu Liang's eyes, and he was terrified. "No, don't come over. I'm a member of the Wu family. You can't touch me. You will die, and your family will be unlucky." Wu Liang was terrified and threatened loudly, but there was no deterrent effect at this time. "I'll give you a chance. Kneel down, kowtow 100 times, and slap yourself 100 times, and I'll let you go. Otherwise, haha, the end will be terrible." Su Weifeng smiled evilly. "Third sister, brother-in-law, what are you doing here? What happened?" Tao Zijian got in from the crowd. He and a few friends came here to eat. Seeing a group of people gathered, the young masters who loved to join in the fun would naturally not miss it. "Ah, Master Tao, Master Wang." Wu Liang knew Tao Zijian, and also knew several of the young men. Not to mention that the others were from the Tao family, and they were not comparable to his Wu family. Even though he was a generation older than Tao Zijian, he still had to call him Master Tao. What? Wu Liang, this beast, still wants to knock on the door with the third sister? He is really courting death. Tao Zijian was furious when Tao Tao told him the general story. He went up and punched and kicked him. Several friends also rushed up excitedly and kicked the human sandbags. Wu Liang's face was covered with blood, but he should really thank these young masters. If Su Weifeng had waited for him to do it himself, his result would definitely be much worse than it is now. With Tao Zijian's involvement, Su Weifeng didn't bother to get involved with Wu Liang. He just asked him to pay a few million and kicked him out. Wu Liang lost both his wife and his army today. Not only did he not get his face back, he was also beaten up, and there was no way to avenge this. He dared not go to the Tao family for trouble. It was good enough that the Tao family did not cause trouble for him. He also lost millions of dollars in vain, which was a big loss for his small family. This time, he looked at the internet celebrity girl and became more and more angry. He slapped her in the face. What a disaster. Who did she offend? Without you, I would not be so unlucky today. He dumped the girl directly, ignoring the internet celebrity who was sitting on the ground and crying. Brother-in-law, are you going to compete in downhill speed with ground flying? At this time, Tao Zijian said goodbye to his friends and was having dinner with Su Weifeng and Tao Tao in the mall. Hearing the reason for buying a skateboard, Tao Zijian shouted, but his eyes were full of excitement. Brother Su, you see, Liu Bei doesn't agree with you to participate in this downhill competition, and you can't play skateboard. Isn't this asking for trouble? Tao Tao said with a sense of disappointment. That's so cool. I must go watch my brother-in-law's game. He will definitely win. Tao Zijian shouted excitedly. He was secretly glad that he met his third sister and Tao Tao today, otherwise he would have missed such an exciting game today. Chapter 780, Smooth Start. Old date, have you been infected by him? You are so abnormal. Tao Tao covered his head and looked at his brother. At 1900 hours in the evening, on Qingyang Mountain, several sports cars stopped at the top of the mountain. A dozen young people had been waiting here for a long time. Seeing that it was already dark, only the dim street lights shone on the winding mountain road, but Su Weifeng and his friends were nowhere to be seen. Brother Fei, did that kid stand us up? It's already 5 minutes past the starting point. Why hasn't he come yet? We can't just wait here foolishly. Han Jiao frowned and came to Du Fei and said, I think it's very likely that they don't dare to come. Why do we need to compete in a game that we are bound to lose? At that time, the kid agreed in a hurry. This time, he must have thought it through and didn't dare to come. Jinna said with a smile. Wait a minute. Before Du Fei finished speaking, a car engine sound came over. The lights flashed, and Tao Zijian drove the car, taking Su Weifeng and Tao Tao to the top of the mountain quickly. Hey, isn't this Mr. Tao? Are you here to participate in the competition too? Du Fei said sarcastically. I don't know how to skateboard. My brother-in-law is enough for today. I will teach you how to behave in a while. Tao Zijian said confidently. Those who didn't know would think he was talking about himself. At Su Weifeng's request, Tao Tao did not participate in this competition. She was not good at downhill. She was good at dance board. Besides, the light was dim at night. The possibility of something happening was too great. He couldn't let Tao Tao get into trouble. So he participated in the competition tonight. Yeah, maybe someone will have to start a new life in a while. Ha ha ha. Jin laughed loudly. Do you want me to be a person for you? Tao Zijian said to Jinna with a wink. Haha, if Mr. Tao dares to participate in downhill and beat me, maybe I will agree. Jinna looked at Tao Zijian with a seductive look and teased him. Don't dream. You are not my type. Tao Zijian laughed loudly. He didn't mind playing with Jinna. It was just a casual act. But if he were to participate in the competition, he would be courting death, as he couldn't even turn. Su Weifeng took out his skateboard, which was brand new and had no dust on it. Today, he just watched a video to learn how to position his feet and turn. Su Weifeng simulated it in his mind and had a general idea in mind. Wow, it's a limited edition Supreme. Where did this rich guy come from? He's really rich. Jinna said with a strange smile. What do you want to say, kid? Hurry up and say it. You won't have a chance later. Ha ha ha. Du Fei laughed loudly. Then I'll confirm that if I win, you won't skateboard anymore. Disband the ground flight, right? Su Weifeng said with a smile. Their initial bet was that if they lost, Du Fei and the others would not skateboard anymore. But when they thought about it, if they didn't skate anymore, it would be equivalent to disbanding the team, so there was nothing wrong with that. Du Fei nodded and agreed. Okay, then I have no problem. Let's get started. Su Weifeng said directly. Du Fei's team had 5 players, Du Fei, Han Jiao, Jinna, and 2 ground flying players. Tao Tao didn't recognize them either, so they should have joined later. Du Fei and his team were well prepared. 2 large drones were launched at the same time, both with infrared night vision cameras. A white background was set up on the top of the mountain, and the projector directly transmitted the images taken by the drone to the screen, so that the people on the top of the mountain could clearly see the competition situation on the winding mountain road. Ready, start. The girl in leather jacket and leather pants stood in front of the track with a small flag in her hand. As the crisp start sounded, the small flag fell quickly. Du Fei and other ground flying players got on the board and pushed off the ground and rushed out. Su Weifeng stood firmly on the skateboard with his feet one in front and one behind. Taking advantage of the downhill, Su Weifeng's skateboard began to slide down. Su Weifeng's action immediately caused laughter from the people on the top of the mountain. Du Fei and others also saw Su Weifeng start steadily and slide down little by little. They laughed so hard that their skateboards became unstable. They were worried that this kid was deliberately hired by someone to trick them. It seems that this kid is a trickster himself. Tao Tao slapped her head. She had originally held a glimmer of hope, hoping that Su Weifeng could slide a little bit before, or at least walk away. But now it seems that Su Weifeng is only on this slope. It would be difficult for him to walk a step on flat ground. Tao Zijian was also shocked. In his heart, he had already deified Su Weifeng. He was simply omnipotent and blindly believed that Su Weifeng would be able to do it. Now he opened his mouth wide and couldn't make a sound for a long time. It seemed that his level was not as good as his own. Su Weifeng only felt the skateboard accelerating a little bit. Fortunately, there was a long straight road at the beginning, and there were no bends. Su Weifeng slowly adapted to the feeling of skateboarding. According to the video, pressing the toes forward means turning left, and pressing the heels backward means turning right. After trying a few times, Su Weifeng's confidence increased greatly. Due to inertia and the acceleration of gravity, Su Weifeng's skateboard speed also slowly increased, and it became faster and faster. When the first bend arrived, Su Weifeng pressed back hard and made a similar floating movement to pass the first bend. Everyone on the top of the mountain looked at the last person on the big screen in surprise, that is, Su Weifeng. He had difficulty starting just now, gliding left and right a little bit, and just a little bit later, he could drift through the bend. This must be luck, definitely luck, people thought so in their hearts. Suddenly, people on the top of the mountain screamed. There was an accident in the first echelon. Du Fei and the other 5 formed a vertical line and slid forward neatly. Suddenly, they passed an area without street lights. Jinna did not slow down because she did not find the curve in front. It was too late. When she got there, she turned right and almost fell out of the guardrail. Before she could feel lucky to have escaped, the 2 team members behind her could not dodge and bumped into her. The 3 of them rolled on the ground for several circles and barely avoided rushing down the mountain. At this time, Jinna and one person's skateboard rushed down the mountain, and the other person's skateboard also had cracks on the board due to the impact of the distance. The people on the top of the mountain saw it clearly. At the beginning, 3 people withdrew from the competition. Fortunately, there were no casualties. This is extreme sports. You never know which will come first, victory or accident. Su Weifeng discovered the trick to control the skateboard. He poured his true energy into his feet and then poured it into the skateboard. His feet and the skateboard seemed to be glued together, very stable and more flexible in turning. With the help of the true energy, the speed of the skateboard became faster and faster. After a while, the speed surpassed the car. Soon, Jinna and the other 3 were seen. Su Weifeng disappeared in front of Jinna and the other 2 with a shadow. Oh my god, is this that guy? How fast is he? The skateboard must be electric. A team member said in surprise. Impossible, this is impossible. Jinna was completely stunned and kept muttering. Chapter 781, Flying Knife Attack. Not only Jinna and the other 2, but everyone on the top of the mountain was even more surprised. They were in a god's perspective, and they clearly saw Su Weifeng staggering at the beginning, and then his speed was getting faster and faster. He didn't slow down at all when turning. The whole person and the skateboard seemed to be a whole. Even when turning, his body was almost at a 45-degree angle, and there was no sense of disobedience. Seeing that Su Weifeng was getting closer and closer to Du Fei and the other 2 in the first echelon, Du Fei and the other 2 were skating with skills, while Su Weifeng was completely crazy about acceleration, and his speed had long exceeded Du Fei and the others. The advantage that Du Fei and the others had initially occupied was gradually shrinking. Finally, when they were about to see the finish line, Du Fei appeared in Su Weifeng's sight. Su Weifeng controlled his true energy to increase the weight of the skateboard a little, and at the same time, increased his speed a little. Du Fei and Han Jiale had heard the sound of the skateboard wheels rubbing against the road surface behind them, and they immediately became nervous. They had just heard the sound of Jinna and the others getting into trouble, but they didn't look back. At this speed, anyone who dared to look back would be killed in a minute. When they heard the sound, they were also wondering if Jinna and the others were not seriously injured and had already caught up with them. But that was not right. Han Jiale and he had not slowed down. Even if Jinna and the others started again, they could not catch up with them at their level. Could it be? Du Fei guessed in his heart, muttering subconsciously, but the wind immediately blocked his words. Soon the display told him the answer. He saw a figure flashing past him quickly, and this figure was completely upright, without bending his waist or knees at all. This is quite dangerous in skateboarding. It was obvious that he was an amateur, but it was such an amateur who surpassed Du Fei at an incredible speed. Du Fei saw that Su Weifeng did not slow down at all, and his whole body leaned back 45 degrees, passing the last bend with a movement that was impossible for humans to complete. Han Jiale was also stunned. He and Du Fei had given up the game and slowly skated towards the finish line, staring at Su Weifeng who was getting closer and closer to the finish line. We won, we won, we won. Cao Cao and the others were jumping and cheering on the top of the mountain, releasing all their anger. The people flying on the ground were stunned. They didn't believe it was true. Even if they saw it with their own eyes, how could someone lean back 45 degrees without falling and accelerate when turning? Seeing Su Weifeng rushing past the finish line, he didn't slow down and continued to rush forward until the video shot by the drone came out with Su Weifeng shouting, "Cao Cao, you didn't teach me how to brake." With a roar, Su Weifeng crashed into a forest. After a tumble and breaking two small trees, he finally stopped. At this time, smoke and dust were everywhere in the forest. "Brother Su," Cao Cao exclaimed, and then he remembered that he seemed to have only taught how to get on the board and turn, and forgot that he had to brake at the finish line. The other people on the top of the mountain were also stunned. They didn't expect that such a powerful person would not know how to brake. The atmosphere fell into a strange silence for a while. "Brother Fei, we won," Han Jiale said with a trembling voice and some confusion. "That guy has already reached the finish line. Can he survive if he crashes into the woods at this speed? This is faster than a car. Even if a car crashes into a tree at this speed, the engine will be scrapped." Du Fei and Han Jiale slowly crossed the finish line. At this time, they walked towards the woods with the people waiting at the finish line to see if Su Weifeng was dead. If Su Weifeng was really dead, this race would be really dramatic. The champion ran out of the finish line too fast and crashed to death. This news would definitely make the headlines. Just as they walked to the edge of the woods, they saw a humanoid creature appear in the smoke. It was none other than Su Weifeng. At this time, Su Weifeng was disheveled, covered in dirt, and his clothes and pants were torn in many holes. He really looked like a beggar. Su Weifeng's skateboard had broken into two pieces and was thrown in the woods. He was still annoyed that the limited edition of 99,999 was of poor quality and broke after only one use. Su Weifeng couldn't help but laugh when he saw Du Fei's expression, as if he had seen a ghost. He walked to Du Fei's side with a smile. "Mr. Du, I won. It's time to fulfill the bet." Su Weifeng smiled evilly and looked at Du Fei without blinking. Du Fei was embarrassed at this time. He had never thought that he would lose. He thought that they would never play skateboarding again. He felt that the world had lost its light. It was not only him, but also the ground flight team on the top of the mountain. Their bet was not just Du Fei's, but the entire ground flight. More than a dozen people were among them. They had to give up skateboarding. They really wanted to cry, but the expression on their faces was uglier than crying. Du Fei wanted to speak, but he was embarrassed to say it. He was willing to accept the loss of the bet, especially in sports like this. They took winning and losing very seriously, but they couldn't afford to lose. This would be ridiculed by others. At this moment, a strong wind flew out from the woods, coming from behind Su Weifeng and shooting towards Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng dodged sideways, and then Su Weifeng saw clearly that it was a dagger, which passed Su Weifeng and continued to go to Du Fei's face. Du Fei only felt a chill on his face, and there was only one thought in his mind: it was over. It was common for a family member to suddenly disappear, usually for revenge, and Du Fei felt that this was aimed at him today. He did not bring a bodyguard to participate in the competition, and even if he brought a bodyguard, it would be useless in this situation. Can the bodyguard be faster than this knife? But the flying knife did not hit Du Fei, because Su Weifeng had kicked Du Fei out with one foot, and because of this kick, Du Fei narrowly avoided this fatal knife. At first, Su Weifeng thought that this place wanted to kill people, to silence them because they lost, but he soon found out that the killer's target was not him, but Du Fei. Even if he did not dodge just now, it should be fine. The people on the mountain saw it clearly, and hurriedly got on the car, and went down the mountain, ready to help. This was an enemy. Su Weifeng immediately turned back, and stared at the woods to relieve himself. He saw a man with the same dusty face coming out of the smoke. A long scar on his face ran from his forehead to his lips. It made people feel cold unconsciously. He almost had his head split open. You are good at fighting, but you are unlucky. I was going to kill the boy from the Du family today, but everyone who sees me must die. The scarred man held a jungle dagger in his hand, looking at everyone with cold eyes, but a smile on his lips. Who sent you to kill me? Du Fei was a little flustered, but he still gritted his teeth and insisted. Sorry, keeping secrets for the employer is our basic principle. The scarred man shook his head and still smiled. This was because his facial muscles were damaged, and he could only maintain such an expression. At this time, a roar of cars came from the mountain, and several sports cars arrived here one after another. Now there are 3 distinct camps at the foot of the mountain. Su Weifeng, Cao Cao, and Tao Zijian are standing together. On the side are Du Fei, Jinna and other people flying on the ground. There was only one man with a scar on the opposite side. Facing more than a dozen men, the man with the scar was not panicked at all. His job was to kill people, and the number of people had no meaning to him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 782 Ghostblade. What's going on? Who is this man? Han Jiao covered his bruised arm and looked at the man holding the dagger nervously. Yes, Brother Fei, is he your enemy? One person against so many of us. He is looking for death. A team member said fiercely. Are you trying to delay time? The scarred man had seen the intentions of these guys and still smiled, with an expression that never changed. Du Fei's heart was beating wildly now. He knew that this must be a killer sent by the enemy, but he didn't know whether it was from another family or someone else. However, this was not the time to think about these things. If he couldn't pass this level, nothing would have anything to do with him. At this time, Cao Cao looked a little panicked, obviously more frightened than others. He hugged Su Weifeng's arm tightly, and his nails pinched into the flesh. Su Weifeng frowned in pain. Don't be afraid, Cao Cao, I'm here. Su Weifeng patted Cao Cao's hand and comforted him softly. Cao Cao then remembered that Su Weifeng was a master who was not afraid of even the hidden family. Her tense muscles relaxed a little, but she still held Su Weifeng's arm, as if this could bring her a sense of security. What's so scary about the third sister? Who can beat my brother-in-law? Tao Zijian was not panicked at all. He felt very safe standing next to Su Weifeng. He worshipped Su Weifeng with all his heart. You don't know who this person is. Sometimes I also go to some messy websites, such as the dark web. Cao Cao's voice trembled a little, as if she was telling a horror story. The dark web is a website for hiring killers. Ordinary people can't enter. You must have an identity and background, and you must be recommended by a member of the dark web, and then you can enter through special methods. Cao Cao continued to talk. Oh my god, what kind of website is so mysterious? It can't be an action romance movie, ha ha ha. A member of the ground flight said. Cao Cao's words also attracted their attention. They had never heard of this website. Su Weifeng frowned. Others may not know this website, but he knows this website. Most of the people on this website are brokers who help the financiers contact mercenaries or killers. It is a collection of the dark side of society. It is said that the server of this website is not installed in any country and is not controlled by any country. Su Weifeng's mercenary group sometimes receives commissions here. This is a killer website, but a foreign website. I haven't found the specific location. I have seen the photo of this person. He is a top 10 Chinese killer. His nickname is Ghost Knife. He is good at using daggers. Because of a mistake, his identity was exposed and his photo was also published. Then he disappeared. People on the internet said that he had been killed by his enemies. I didn't expect to see him here. Tao Tao looked nervous. After careful identification, she confirmed that she was not mistaken. This person was Ghost Knife. The dark web introduced that his flying knife was superb. He was simply the reincarnation of Xiaoli Fideo. He received 99 orders and only failed on the 100th order. He was also a legendary figure on the dark web. What? Top 10 Chinese killers? Who is so generous that he can find a ghost knife to kill me? Du Fei's legs began to tremble when he heard Tao Tao's words, and he barely avoided sitting on the ground. Although Du Fei and his friends didn't know that Tao Tao was the hacker husky, they all knew that she was a computer expert, and they still believed in Tao Tao's words. He originally hoped that this person's strength was not too strong, and he should have a chance with the large number of people on his side, or wait until the family's bodyguards arrived. Now he heard that it was the top 10 Chinese killers. What a concept. The top 10 strongest people among more than 1 billion people. Little girl, you have some knowledge. I didn't expect that someone in a small family could recognize me. It's really rare. But in this case, I can't let you go. Let you go together and have a companion. You can also play skateboards on the other side. Ha 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 ha, you really have to thank me. The scarred man laughed. Suddenly Su Weifeng stepped out and looked at the scarred man with a smile. No one will die today. If you want to die, one is enough. Su Weifeng said calmly, without any panic. You can't let me die. Du Fei said with a nervous and horrified face. If one person's death can guarantee everyone's safety. A team member said. Mr. Killer, can you let us go? After all, we are not your target. We won't tell anyone anything. Yes, we didn't see anything. The ground flying team members all took a few steps back and distanced themselves from Du Fei. Even Jinna and Han Jiao, who had the best relationship with him, deliberately stepped aside. At this time, brotherhood was not as important as life. The children of the family had been influenced by this since childhood. There were no permanent friends, only permanent interests, and no one was worth anything in front of life. You. Du Fei didn't expect that he would be deserted by his friends and relatives at this time. Even Han Jiao and Jinna avoided him for fear of being implicated. Du Fei was already desperate at this time. With the killer in front of him, his team members and friends all stayed away from him. He was mentally hit hard. He no longer had any luck in his heart. He smiled bitterly. He no longer wanted to scold these people for their betrayal. He had accepted this reality. Not bad, not bad. You are quite sensible, but you all recognized me. Do you still want to live? Haven't you heard that only dead people can keep secrets? The scarred man looked at the reactions of these people as if he was watching a joke and sneered. Ha ha ha, is that right? It would be so lonely if I died alone. Du Fei laughed at this time and laughed very happily. The fear in his heart had turned into hatred for Jinna and others. It was Tao who recognized you. We don't know you and have never heard of you. Han Jiao shouted. Yes, we don't know what network it is. We didn't hear anything. Jinna also hurriedly said, trying hard to distance herself from the relationship. You just killed Tao and Du Fei. It has nothing to do with us. We haven't been to Qingyang Mountain today. Let's go now. Now the attitude of the ground flight is very consistent. Not only Du Fei was sacrificed, but Tao was also ready to sacrifice himself. As long as he didn't die, anything would be fine. A fellow Taoist can die, but I can't die. My third sister won't die, a bunch of idiots. Tao Zijian was not happy. It was fine for this group to sell Du Fei, since he was not familiar with them. But it was not okay for them to sell his third sister. Besides, he had his brother-in-law with him, So what was there to be afraid of? Tao Zijian, you fool. If you don't stand on our side at this time, you can just wait to die. Jinna said. She wanted to pull everyone to her side so that she would have a better chance of survival. Yeah. What's the third sister at this time? Do you want to die with Tao Tao? Han Jiale also said. The two people who play best with Du Fei had the strongest attitude at this time. Chapter 783. Accepting defeat. With my brother-in-law here, my third sister and I will not die. Humph. Tao Zijian snorted disdainfully. Only your brother-in-law can protect you. Your brother-in-law is good at skateboarding. Even if he is very skilled, what can he do? This is Ghostblade, the strongest killer in the country. Han Jiale shouted. These people looked at Tao Zijian like a fool. This top 10 killer, how can that kid deal with it? Dream on. This Tao Zijian is also a fool of the same family. Everyone has already made a comment. Boy, it seems that your brother-in-law trusts you very much. Let me see how good your skills are. Don't be too weak, otherwise I will be disappointed. The scarred man watched the excitement for a long time and found that Tao Zijian's fearlessness came from Su Weifeng. Even if you are in the top 10 in the country, you are not qualified to discuss my skills. Su Weifeng sneered and began to walk towards the scarred man. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. You really don't know how high the sky is? Do you think I'm one of those ordinary killers? Since you want to die early, I'll let you cut in line and go first. The scarred man said as he raised his hand. A white shadow flew out of his hand, and with a sound of breaking wind, it had already arrived in front of Su Weifeng. Tao Tao only had time to scream. This time Tao Zijian was also panicked. He knew that his brother-in-law was good at fighting. When he really saw the flying knife of this ghost knife, he finally began to be frightened. How could he dodge at this speed? It was almost as fast as a bullet. No matter how good the martial arts were, they were afraid of kitchen knives, let alone this flying knife. Du Fei and others were also tense. Tao Tao's boyfriend was the first to die. Who would be the second and third? At this time, the flying knife had already arrived in front of Su Weifeng, and the scarred man was still sneering. With his knife speed and such a close distance, no one could dodge it. However, the next scene made his pupils dilate instantly. He saw Su Weifeng swung his right hand in front of him, slapping the flying knife to the side, like slapping a fly, and it fell on the road. The scarred man was also an experienced professional killer. He immediately abandoned the distracting thoughts in his mind, wiped his hands on his waist, and swung his hands continuously. In an instant, 4 flying knives came out at the same time, shooting at Su Weifeng's face, throat, heart and abdomen respectively. Su Weifeng was afraid of accidentally hurting Tao Tao and Tao Zijian behind him, so he did not dodge and injected his true energy into his hands. This was also the experience learned from fighting with Su Yi and others, or the method of using true energy. The skin of his hands seemed to be covered with a layer of white film, and the blade could hardly hurt him at all. He waved his hands quickly a few times, and several daggers were slapped to the ground again. All these actions happened in an instant. Su Weifeng suddenly accelerated and arrived in front of the scarred man. The scarred man suppressed his fear and had another dagger in his hand. It was unknown how many daggers he had. The scarred man quickly stabbed Su Weifeng with the dagger 3 times. Su Weifeng suddenly exerted force on his feet and his body shook. He had already come to the side of the scarred man. Su Weifeng put his finger like a knife and stabbed the scarred man's armpit. The scarred man felt as if he was stabbed by the knife. His whole arm lost consciousness and the knife in his hand fell to the ground. Su Weifeng quickly retracted his hand. If you look closely, you can see that Su Weifeng did not stab the scarred man's armpit with his finger. There was a silver needle between his fingers. Now there were a few drops of blood slowly dripping from the silver needle. After the attack, there was no pause. The finger stabbed the scarred man's neck again. The scarred man felt a pain in his neck. His eyes went black, and he fell to the ground with a bang, completely losing consciousness. At this time, Su Weifeng shook off the blood on the silver needle with satisfaction, and put the silver needle into his arms. Brother-in-law, you are really amazing. What a powerful killer, you can solve it with just 2 moves. Tao Zijian ran over and shouted excitedly. Are you okay? Tao Tao hurried over, and pulled Su Weifeng to look left and right. If there were not so many people now, he would have to take off Su Weifeng's clothes directly. Su Weifeng was so scared that he hurriedly signaled to Cao Cao that he was fine. Solved. The killer was killed. I don't have to die. Wow. Du Fei was so excited that he cried. The feeling of waiting to die was really too painful, especially before he died. Everyone avoided him like a plague. This feeling made him feel dead. He didn't expect the ending to be like this. Cao Cao's boyfriend killed the killer in 2 moves, and he was safe. He relaxed physically and mentally, and couldn't help crying. Jinna and other female team members also cried loudly. They all felt that being alive was the happiest thing this time. This time they were reborn from a desperate situation, and cried with joy. After everyone's emotions erupted for a while, they all looked at Su Weifeng in horror, and thought of a question. This was a killer ranked in the top 10 in the country, but Su Weifeng could kill him in 2 moves. Who was Su Weifeng? Was he a killer ranked higher? Just thinking about it made people shudder. Is it from the Hidden World family? Han Jiao's mind was turning, and he suddenly thought of something, and muttered in a low voice. Although his voice was very low, it was still heard by others. As a member of the family, he had heard of the Hidden World family since he was a child. This name represented mystery and power. Thinking of this, everyone had a judgment in their hearts. It must be like this. Only people from the Hidden World family could have such strength. They were simply inhuman. Slapping a knife with bare hands was like slapping a fly. Killing a killer in the top 10 with 2 moves. These people firmly believed in their own ideas, and no one dared to say it out loud, at least not in front of Su Weifeng. Everyone knew that the Hidden World family was mysterious. Who knew if they had any quirks? What if they killed people to avoid being discovered? They were all very panicked. Du Fei. Su Weifeng suddenly called out. Brother, I'm here. Du Fei was like a little brother at this time. When he heard Su Weifeng calling him, he ran to him obediently and stood straight. Our game. Su Weifeng just said a few words and paused. Du Fei understood. We lost. I'm completely convinced. I will never play skateboarding again. Ground flying will be disbanded on the spot. There will be no such team in the future. As for them, I don't know. Du Fei answered very straightforwardly. He almost died once. What's the point of skateboarding? If it weren't for skateboarding, would he have almost died today? And his ground flying feelings were so fragile. He hated it in his heart. This team couldn't play together. After expressing his willingness to accept the loss, he also threw the trouble to his teammates. He didn't play skateboarding anymore, but he couldn't control his teammates. We won't play anymore. No, whoever plays is a grandson. Don't mention that board to me. I will get angry with anyone who mentions it. Everyone expressed their attitude and regarded skateboarding as an enemy. Chapter 784 Transaction. Yeah. Su Weifeng nodded in satisfaction, and a smile appeared on his face. Seeing Su Weifeng smile, Du Fei felt that spring had arrived. As if flowers were blooming, plants were reviving, and the whole world was alive. This killer is not dead yet, Su Weifeng suddenly said, but Cao Cao suddenly laughed. She often spied on Su Weifeng, and of course she knew his style. He would not work for nothing without profit. How could he work for nothing? This was not his character. Ah, Big Brother didn't kill him, Du Fei said in surprise, looking at the scarred man on the ground, as if he saw a ghost. Now it's a society ruled by law. How can I kill people? Su Weifeng said naturally. But seeing how Su Weifeng dealt with the scarred man just now, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. You have never killed anyone. You are fooling ghosts. This is my prey, but it seems that he should be very important to your Du family. Su Weifeng pointed at the scarred man on the ground and looked at Du Fei again. Du Fei was also a leader of the younger generation of the Du family. How could he not understand Su Weifeng's meaning? He immediately patted his chest and promised that the Du family would definitely reward Su Weifeng for this matter. How about this? Since you seem to be a good gambler, I will sell it to you at a lower price. Just give me 100 million. Su Weifeng said casually, as if he was selling a pig. This is the top killer in the country. This price is worth it. But Du Fei was shocked. This man was really bold. How could he have 100 million? The family was not short of 100 million, but this was not something he could decide. The others were also shocked by Su Weifeng's selling price. For these young people, it was a huge sum of money. At least they could not afford it individually. However, Tao Zijian's eyes lit up, as if he had seen a pile of gold coins. Does my brother-in-law usually make money like this? Tao Zijian swallowed his saliva, recalling that Su Weifeng blackmailed the Su family and forced the Su family to pay more than 100 million in compensation. At this moment, I suddenly felt that my brother-in-law had definitely done this more than once or twice. This speed of making money was much faster than their family's company. It should be a few times a month. Tao Tao said casually. How many times a month? Tao Zijian felt that his brain had crashed and lost the ability to think. This is all small money. I know there are times when there are 10 billion. Tao Tao just finished speaking and suddenly covered his mouth and secretly looked at Su Weifeng, afraid that Su Weifeng would be angry. 10 billion? Tao Zijian said subconsciously, drooling. This is so promising. I want to tell you that it is US dollars. Tao Tao wanted to laugh when she saw Tao Zijian's look and whispered in Tao Zijian's ear. Tao Zijian sat down on the ground directly. This amount of information is a bit too much. Let me slow down for a while. Brother, I really don't have 100 million. I have to report to my family. Du Fei saw that Su Weifeng didn't speak and was panicked and hurriedly explained. I don't have that much time. 1 minute to think about it. I'll leave the deal to you. If the deal is not done, I'll let him go, and I'll just consider that I didn't catch this prey. Su Weifeng said easily, showing that he didn't care about the deal. He didn't care, but Du Fei did. Letting go of the top 10 assassins in the country? What does that mean? The assassins are likely to come and assassinate him again. It means that he is prepared. The assassins ranked on the dark web are all top in the country. Can the family's bodyguards protect him? The answer is horrible. It's simply unimaginable. That means he has to die again, and he will really die then. Moreover, this man's skills can kill the ghost knife in seconds. There is a possibility that he is from a terrifying hidden family. It is probably more dangerous to offend him than to offend the ghost knife. After thinking about the interests clearly, Du Fei gritted his teeth and made a decision. Brother, we bought it. But the money will probably be transferred to you tomorrow. Now the finance department can't operate it in the middle of the night. Du Fei hurriedly agreed to Su Weifeng's offer and tried his best to explain that the money couldn't be transferred today. Fortunately, Su Weifeng didn't care. He directly handed the person over to Du Fei, left an account number, and left with Tao Tao and Tao Zijian. He believed that the Du family would not be stupid enough to default on the debt. If that happened, he didn't mind going to the Du family to collect the debt in person. Tao Zijian kept talking while driving. He was so excited about what happened today. He had never experienced such a big thing in his life. How many people can have such an experience of walking on the edge of death and seeing a famous killer? He said that he wanted to worship Su Weifeng as his teacher. He also said that he loved watching Ultraman when he was a child. He had a dream of Kung Fu since he was a child. He begged Su Weifeng to teach him Kung Fu. Su Weifeng was so annoyed that he promised to teach him in the few days he stayed here. This made Tao Zijian quiet for a while. But soon he began to dream of himself becoming a Kung Fu master, doing justice and protecting the society. Tao Tao felt ashamed to have such a relative. He was too immature. Fortunately he was not like him. After returning home, Su Weifeng and Tao Tao simply washed and lay down to rest. Brother Su, you are so handsome. I really suspect that you are not from our world, but from the world of immortals, but ancient martial arts or something. Can't even last 2 moves in your hands. Tao Tao behaved maturely and steadily in front of Tao Zijian. Now only Su Weifeng was there. She also began to be immature. You found out about this. Do I have to kill you to silence you? Su Weifeng joked. Brother Su, I want to give birth to a baby for you. Maybe it will be an immortal in the future. Tao Tao suddenly narrowed her eyes, licked her lips, and looked at Su Weifeng, saying lewdly, I want it now. Tao Tao said, and pounced on him, pressing Su Weifeng so hard that he couldn't breathe. Okay, then we'll have a monkey, and the nickname will be Wukong. Su Weifeng liked Tao Tao more and more, and she always made him happy. It was very easy to be with her. Su Weifeng turned over and pushed Tao Tao down, and Tao Tao screamed in fear. She was afraid that Su Weifeng would really do it to her. Pervert, get out of the way, I'm not ready yet. Tao Tao protected her chest with both hands, huddled on the edge of the bed and said nervously. Hahaha. Looking at Teo's cute cowardly look, Su Weifeng laughed. Teo knew that she had been fooled and rushed over to hug Su Weifeng and beat him with his claws and steel teeth again. After a while, Teo closed his eyes and fell asleep, looking at the little lolly on his shoulder, with a chubby little face and long eyelashes trembling with the rhythm of her breathing. She was indescribably cute. Su Weifeng gently kissed Teo's little face, lay down, closed his eyes, and gradually fell asleep. Teo had a sweet smile on her face in her sleep, and she was dreaming that Su Weifeng kissed her. Chapter 785 Tao Zijian Special Training. Dang. There was a rapid knock on the door. Who is it? Can't we sleep so early in the morning? Su Weifeng and Tao, who were sleeping soundly, were awakened by a knock on the door. Tao shouted angrily and kicked her legs. Su Weifeng was stared at helplessly and had to get up to open the door. Brother-in-law, third sister, don't sleep anymore. Get up and exercise. Tao Zijian said hurriedly as soon as the door was opened. Tao Zijian would live in Tao's house for the next few days in order to compete with Su Weifeng in martial arts. Anyway, there was plenty of room. Brother Tao, it's only 6 o'clock. There's nothing to do so early. Su Weifeng looked at the clock on the wall and was speechless. They came back very late last night, and Tao and he tossed around for a while. It was past 1 o'clock when they went to bed, and they only slept for a few hours. Brother-in-law, did you have a big fight with the third sister last night? Look at your panda eyes. You should be restrained when you are young, otherwise you will be old. Tao Zijian saw that Su Weifeng and Tao, who had just sat up, both had panda eyes, and he immediately showed a look of realization and said with a sly smile. Su Weifeng was so angry that he was itching. What kind of brother-in-law is this? He is still young and unrestrained. What will happen when he is old? Is it possible for me with my physique? Before Su Weifeng could say anything, Tao threw a pillow at him, and Tao Zijian was so scared that he quickly hid by the door. In the end, Su Weifeng locked Tao Zijian outside the door on the grounds that his martial arts were not suitable for practicing too early, and the sun had not risen yet and the yang energy was insufficient, and asked him to wait until he had breakfast in the morning before starting to practice. Then he picked up the pillow and went back to prepare for another sleep. Tao threw his pillow. Tao Zijian was left alone outside the door, doubtful, and didn't know whether what the brother-in-law said was true or not, but he still went back and waited for breakfast. Su Weifeng returned to the bed and got into the quilt. He hugged Teo from behind like a stuffed toy, closed his eyes, and fell asleep again. This time he slept well. His body finally recovered, and his dark circles were gone. Su Weifeng and Teo got up, washed and changed clothes, and went downstairs for breakfast. When they went downstairs, they saw Tao Zijian waiting at the table. He was obviously impatient. Don't knock on the door before 8 o'clock tomorrow, or you won't be allowed to live here. Teo gritted his teeth and said, feeling very unhappy about being disturbed in his sweet dream. Tao Zijian shrank his neck, but he didn't dare to offend the power of the third sister. He was still counting on his brother-in-law to teach him martial arts. After breakfast, the three of them came to the gym of the villa. Teo didn't want to come at first, but suddenly wanted to see how Tao Zijian was abused. He immediately became energetic and followed the two of them to the gym happily, which made Tao Zijian's back cold. He always felt that something bad was going to happen. Brother-in-law, what do you teach me first today? Tao Zijian asked anxiously. Let's practice physical fitness first today. It's useless to practice moves with your current physical fitness. Your basic strength and flexibility are not enough, so you can't hurt the enemy. Su Weifeng said seriously. Tao Zijian agreed with Su Weifeng's words. Think about how Su Weifeng only poked Ghost Blade twice with his hand last night, and Ghost Blade lost its combat power and fainted. How terrifying power is needed to do this. Brother-in-law is absolutely right to practice physical fitness. He doesn't know that Su Weifeng didn't solve Ghost Blade with a single poke with his bare hands yesterday, but used silver needles and true ki. However, Su Weifeng couldn't tell him this. I have made a plan for you. Do strength training in the morning. 500 times of 100-pound barbell bench press. 500 times of body weight pull-ups, and 500 times of deadlifts. Do flexibility training in the afternoon, Su Weifeng said seriously. What? Tao Zijian almost dropped his jaw in shock. He could barely push up 100 pounds of barbell bench press, but what the hell was this 500 times? Even if I tried my best to do 2 human body presses, it was still 500 times. This was simply impossible. This was going to kill me. Brother-in-law, are you serious? How can this be done? Tao Zijian had a bitter face and was about to cry. This is just a few. I'm still planning according to your plan as a beginner with no foundation. You will have to increase the amount after you practice for a while. You decide for yourself, do it or not. Su Weifeng wished that he would not practice. Today he also wanted to scare Tao Zijian. He would save himself a lot of trouble if he didn't have to teach him martial arts. Then can I be as good as my brother-in-law if I practice like this? Tao Zijian asked tentatively. Don't even think about it with my level, but if you practice like this, in a few months, none of those family masters will be your opponent. Su Weifeng thought about it and organized his words. Tao Zijian gritted his teeth and finally made up his mind. He didn't dare to think that he could catch a wolf without sacrificing his son. He didn't dare to think that he was as powerful as his brother-in-law. He heard that no one in the family could match him. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. This was enough for him. I'll practice. Tao Zijian gritted his teeth. Su Weifeng smiled and nodded and sat on the bench with Tao Tao on the side. The two leaned against each other and played with their mobile phones. Tao Zijian pushed the barbell and was almost strangled to death by the barbell several times. Seeing Tao Tao gloating over his misfortune and still filming the video, he gnashed his teeth in hatred. He now understood why Tao Tao followed so actively in the morning. He was waiting to see him being abused. Finally, when it was dark in the evening, Tao Zijian finished all the movements and lay on the ground like a dead dog. His legs twitched from time to time. He didn't even eat lunch. This was Su Weifeng's request that he could eat when he finished practicing. Then there was nothing else. Now that the strength training is finished, it's time to practice flexibility. Su Weifeng stood up and walked towards Tao Zijian. Let me slow down. I can't do it anymore. Tao Zijian said weakly. No need to slow down. I'll help you with flexibility. You just need to lie down. Su Weifeng grabbed one of Tao Zijian's legs and said. Tao Zijian had a bad premonition that something terrible would happen, and soon his premonition became a reality. Ah! Su Weifeng pulled one of his legs, stepped on his other leg with his foot, and began to stretch. Tao Zijian only felt a huge force, and his legs were broken. Do you want to block your mouth? It's too miserable to scream. People outside think I've killed someone. Tao Tao ran over and said. After Su Weifeng's tacit consent, Tao Tao excitedly took the towel that Tao Zijian used to wipe his sweat and stuffed it into his mouth, with a gloating expression on his face. Tao Zijian regretted it very much now. The first thing he said was help. I don't want to practice anymore. It's a pity that his mouth was blocked and his arms were too tired to lift. Tao Zijian suffered inhuman torture for an hour, tears streaming down his face, feeling that his whole body was torn apart, and in the end he was numb from the pain. Now he hated Tao Tao the most, and he couldn't even beg for mercy with his mouth blocked. Su Weifeng was also surprised that Tao Zijian didn't beg for mercy. When he stretched Feng Baoer for the first time in the gym, Feng Baoer didn't cry, but Feng Baoer had practiced, but Tao Zijian didn't. Later, when he saw Tao Zijian crying, he realized it. Chapter 786 Kigen Master. The next day, Tao Zijian was not seen at the table. Su Weifeng and Tao Tao came to Tao Zijian's room and saw that Tao Zijian was still lying on the bed, and it was difficult to turn over. Su Weifeng thought that Tao Zijian would give up, but Tao Zijian gritted his teeth and asked to practice again. However, he was definitely not able to practice today in this state. How could he practice when he couldn't even get out of bed? Su Weifeng used silver needles to prick Tao Zijian all over his body and used his true ki to help him repair his strained muscles. It should be fine after a day or two of recuperation. Just as he was about to go back to the room with Tao Tao, Su Weifeng's cell phone rang. It turned out to be Pei Yi calling. He admitted his mistake to Su Weifeng with a bitter face. It turned out that Pei also participated in the shooting of some videos after joining the company. Because he was a real gangster, the effect of video shooting was very good. He acted the gangster jokes very realistically and suddenly gained a lot of fans. But after the small fire, black fans also followed. Some black fans left messages to make trouble. Among them, there was a relatively famous person, Master He of a certain Kigging school. Master He often performed Kigging in his own jokes. Of course, the participants were all his own disciples. In the video, Master He didn't need to make a move at all. The disciples came up and flew away when they stuck to him and fell down when they touched him. Pei had always sneered at this. He was even more annoyed when he was scolded by Master He in the comment area. He started a quarrel with Master He online. He thought it was just a quarrel and it would be over after it was over. Unexpectedly, Master He played dirty and reported online that Pei's jokes were promoting evil forces. As a result, the company's platform account was blocked. Lin Zhuangxuan had already complained to the platform and was waiting for the result. It's just this matter, a small matter, work hard, and I won't treat you unfairly. Su Weifeng didn't care about what Pei said. It was not a big deal, and he called him. Pei was relieved to see that Su Weifeng didn't blame him. But Su Weifeng still watched the video of Master He online. It was really funny. He also saw Pei's message in the comments. It was really rude. The two of them cursed each other. Brother-in-law, brother-in-law, there is good news. Tao Zijian's voice came from outside the door. After Su Weifeng's silver needles helped him recover, he can now get out of bed. Tao's door was not locked during the day. Tao Zijian walked in with a staggering step, holding his mobile phone and said excitedly, "What good news? What good news?" Tao was interested when she heard about the good news. "We have a famous Kigging master here. He will hold a lecture at Kyoto University and will teach Kigging exercises on the spot. I have already booked tickets for us online. Front row, VIP seats, 15,000 tickets each." Tao Zijian was very proud and asked for credit. "What Kigging master? I don't practice Kigging, so I won't go." Tao rolled her eyes. She must not be interested in such good news. Seeing that Su Weifeng and Tao were both uninterested, Tao Zijian hurriedly said, "You don't know, this time Master He is not an ordinary person. He is a member of the World Kigging Association. It is not easy to join the World Kigging Association. There are less than one in a country." Tao Zijian stretched out his palm and compared. "This master, his nickname is Crane Immortal. His Kigging is superb. This time there are only 500 tickets. They were sold out in seconds. I was quick to grab 3. My brother-in-law's kung fu is already so powerful. If he learns master his Kigging, he will be invincible." Tao Zijian was excited and spitting. "Is it this Master He?" Su Weifeng held up his mobile phone, which was playing a video of Master He fighting his disciples. "Yes, that's it. How about it? Awesome." Tao Zijian said excitedly. Su Weifeng and Tao looked at each other and laughed at the same time. "Old 8, haha, this is the master you mentioned? This is too fake. It completely violates the laws of physics, and you believe this?" Tao was already laughing so hard that he couldn't catch his breath. He had seen similar monkey videos before, and everyone treated them as jokes, but his brother actually took it seriously. But Tao Zijian's words immediately made Su Weifeng and Tao know that there are many young people nowadays who worship the Crane Immortal. In their minds, he is simply a godlike existence. Things like taking objects from the air, walking on paper, etc. are all things that science cannot explain. "Okay, then let's go and see this Crane Master." Su Weifeng looked at Tao and found that there was some curiosity in her eyes, so he agreed. "Great, brother-in-law, you will definitely not regret it." Tao Zijian walked out of the house excitedly. The Crane Immortal's lecture time is at 10 AM the day after tomorrow, and it will last for 2 hours until 12 noon. I didn't expect this kid to still believe in this. Su Weifeng shook his head helplessly. "Then you can expose that fake master. He is just a liar," Tao said indignantly. "Why expose him? Anyone with knowledge can see it. We just go and watch the excitement. Just treat it as a comedy movie," Su Weifeng said indifferently. He really didn't want to expose any fake masters. The level was too low, and he was not qualified to bother himself. Watch a movie. Let's go to Dinjing. There is a new movie recently. When Tao Tao heard about the movie, she suddenly remembered and pulled Su Weifeng to watch a movie. It won't be another action romance movie, right? Su Weifeng said with a smile. Tao Tao's face turned black, and she hugged Su Weifeng and bit him. Su Weifeng sometimes really suspected that she was a dog in her previous life. 2 days later, at Kyoto University, Su Weifeng and the other two drove into the campus in a Lamborghini coupe, which immediately caused a commotion among the students. Today's campus is particularly lively. Not only students, but also many foreign reporters, etc. From time to time, luxury cars enter the campus. Today, all of this is caused by one person, that is, Master He, the famous Kigen Master. Isn't that Beijing TV? Yangcheng TV is here? Su Weifeng looked at the group of staff carrying microphones and cameras, and suddenly he seemed to have discovered a new world. He pointed at two groups of people, all of whom had obvious signs of their TV stations. What's the big deal? Master He's speeches are always sensational, and foreign TV reporters often come to interview him. Tao Zijian said proudly, obviously admiring this Kigen Master very much. If it was Yangcheng TV, then Lin Zuangsun, Pei Yi and the others would be able to see it. I wonder if they would be so angry that they would grit their teeth when they saw this master. Su Weifeng couldn't help but think of a picture in his mind. Lin Zuangsun was facing the TV, her face flushed, and she was pinching a pillow in her hand. Suddenly, Su Weifeng thought of a problem. Tao Zijian bought a VIP seat in the first row, so it would be easy for the camera on the scene to record him. If Lin Zuangsun knew that he had come to see Master He's speech, he would have to settle the score with him. Chapter 787 The Master appears. Are you here to listen to Master He's speech? Su Weifeng and others were talking when a male voice came. The speaker was a young man in his 20s, and there was a girl of about the same age beside him. The girl was holding a sign with 3 big characters Izanren written on it with a brush. The strokes were vigorous and powerful. Aren't all these people here to listen to the speech? Tao Tao rolled his eyes, feeling that this was a question that he already knew the answer to. These people were reporters and school staff who were there to maintain order. If they were not here to listen to Master He's speech, what else were they here for? Then you are here. After this speech, Master He will go on a tour abroad. If you can't see him today, you may not know when he will be next time. The man said again, with a smug look on his face. Do you often watch Master He's speeches? You seem to be very familiar with his schedule. Su Weifeng looked at the young man and said with a smile. It turns out that the man is Zhang Gaoji and the woman is Jia Bingbing. They are a couple and have always been followers of Master He. They have attended many speeches of Master He. They also have a group of followers, and they are both members of this group. Su Weifeng sighed secretly. Isn't this just like chasing stars? There are people chasing stars, and there are people chasing Kigen Masters. People nowadays are too crazy. I'll tell you an insider news. Today is different from the usual speeches. Today, Master He will accept registered disciples on the spot. This is a rare opportunity. We have attended so many speeches, but this is the first time. Jia Bingbing lowered her voice and said mysteriously. Really? That's great, third sister, brother-in-law. I said that we came at the right time today. It's okay to become a registered disciple. In the future, I will have the opportunity to become a real disciple of Master He. Then I can also learn the magical kicking. RRR. When Tao Zijian heard that he could become a registered disciple of Master he was like a chicken blood, dancing with excitement, and he didn't know where to put his hands. Seeing Tao Zijian's excitement, Jia Bingbing and Zhang Gaoji were also infected. The three of them excitedly imagined the future and chatted enthusiastically, almost calling each other senior brothers and junior brothers. Let's go in, otherwise there will be no good seats. Su Weifeng saw the state of Tao Zijian and the others, and was afraid that they would not be able to finish the chat for a while, so he interrupted them. Brother-in-law, don't worry, we are VIP seats, with numbers on the tickets, and others can't take them. Tao Zijian said proudly. You are also VIPs? So are we. What a fate. Jia Bingbing said in surprise. It's convenient since we are all VIPs. Let's go in and chat. Zhang Gaoji also said excitedly. He and Jia Bingbing's family conditions are good, otherwise they can't buy VIP seats. Hearing that Tao Zijian and the others are also rich, they suddenly feel that they are all rich people and people of the same kind, and their relationship has become closer. Several people entered the lecture hall together. At the innermost part of the hall was a large rectangular stage. The first row in front of the stage was the VIP seats for Su Weifeng and his group. There were densely packed seats behind. It was estimated that there were several hundred seats. Su Weifeng even suspected that the people sitting in the back had to bring their own telescopes. There was still half an hour until 10 o'clock. The number of people in the hall gradually increased, and the voices became noisy. Su Weifeng observed that except for himself and Tao Tao and others who were young people, the rest were middle-aged and elderly people. There were all kinds of people in the back, including students, white-haired old people, and middle-aged people. Many of them even came with children. This gave Su Weifeng a new understanding of this master. He was popular with all ages. He was a great man. He was amazing. Brother Su, why are there so many idiots? It's okay if they are older, but there are so many young people. They are too easy to fool. Tao Tao put her mouth close to Su Weifeng's ear and said. She didn't dare to speak loudly. These hundreds of Master He's admirers were here. If they heard her, she would suffer enough. Su Weifeng turned around and wanted to speak to Tao Tao in a low voice, but his mouth happened to touch Tao Tao's mouth. Both of them were stunned. Third sister, brother-in-law, do you still have any public morality? I'm still here, and this dog food is thrown in my face. Tao Zijian said indignantly. It's none of your business. We are happy to do it. Tao Tao said disdainfully, and kissed Su Weifeng hard on the mouth. Su Weifeng suddenly felt countless eyes around him, and his face was embarrassed. He was not afraid of facing many enemies, but he was still a little embarrassed to kiss in public in front of hundreds of people. Tao Tao, stop making trouble. Su Weifeng hurriedly stopped Tao Tao. With Tao Tao's bold character, who knows what will happen if he is not stopped. Tao Zijian laughed and mocked Tao Tao, and Zhang Gaoji and Jia Bingbing also covered their mouths and laughed secretly. Tao Tao looked unconcerned, but in fact he was also very embarrassed. Hey, everyone, be quiet, Master He's speech is about to begin. A staff member walked onto the stage and tried the microphone. The hall gradually quieted down. This was different from the students' large classes. Most of the students were forced to attend a class. However, the participants of Master He's speech this time were all admirers. There was no need to maintain the order of the class. Everyone abandoned their concentration and stared at Master He, who was about to appear on the side of the stage. A man in his 50s, who was just over 1.7 meters tall, thin, and wearing a white martial arts training suit, walked onto the stage. Su Weifeng looked at the old man, with black hair, slightly bulging temples, and a bright face. He looked like a person with inner strength. Su Weifeng frowned slightly. He thought that Master He was a liar, but he didn't expect that it might not be that simple. As soon as Master He came on stage, before he even opened his mouth to speak, there was thunderous applause from the audience. Tao Zijian and Zhang Gaoji also clapped their hands hard, as if they were not their own hands. Su Weifeng and Tao Tao looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. The status of this Master He was much higher than Su Weifeng and the others had imagined. Looking at this posture, he was no different from a celebrity. Master He waved his hand, and the applause from the audience slowly subsided. People were waiting for Master He to speak. Hello everyone, I'm Master He. I believe many people know me. Today I'm here to share with you our national quintessence, Kigen. Master He walked to the center of the stage with a smile on his face and spoke in a kind tone. If you didn't know him, you would think he was an uncle next door, very friendly. Chapter 788, Become a Disciple. The audience's eyes were full of expectation and strong curiosity, which made Master He very satisfied, and he spoke more vigorously. The content of Master He's speech was not profound, but some basic theories such as the origin of Kigen, that the general public could understand. Of course, there were many exaggerated elements in it, such as Kigen could cure diseases, and that you didn't necessarily need to go to the hospital if you were sick, and that using Qi in the body to regulate your own body diseases would make them disappear, etc. Su Weifeng listened carefully at first, but the more he listened, the more he felt something was wrong. At the beginning, there was still some truth, but later it became more and more mysterious, such as luck would make you as light as a swallow, rebound injury, etc., which was too ridiculous, but these people at the scene were like possessed, just like brainwashing by pyramid schemes, and their eyes were shining, as if they saw that they would soon be able to achieve great magical powers, and be immune to all poisons. He's just a lunatic. Cao Cao defined Master He. She didn't listen to what Master He said at all. She wasn't interested in Qigan at all. She saw the old man dancing and getting more excited the more he talked. Keep your voice down, or someone will throw you out. Su Weifeng also smiled and gestured to the back. Cao Cao turned around and immediately shrank her neck. Seeing so many people looking at Master He on the stage fascinatedly, she didn't dare to say anything. Time passed quickly. The theoretical part was over. Master He and his disciples began to demonstrate the practicality of Qigan on the stage. It was not only for strengthening the body, but also for self-defense against enemies. Everyone, watch carefully. When the Qi flows throughout the body, it is just like the airbag of a car. When you are attacked, the Qi in your body will absorb the force, preventing your body from being hurt, and at the same time, rebound the force with acceleration. It is like the opponent hits you with a force of 10 kilograms, but after rebounding, the opponent will receive more than 10 kilograms of force, and it may even increase exponentially. Master He first talked about the role of Qigan in actual combat, and then began to demonstrate it with his disciples. 4 or 5 disciples surrounded Master He, and attacked him at the same time. The result was, just as Su Weifeng expected. Some people hugged their arms, and sat on the ground, some rolled backwards several times before stopping, and one turned 3 times on the spot, before lying on the ground. There was thunderous applause in the hall, and Su Weifeng followed everyone and clapped gently. The corners of his mouth could not help but rise, and he was about to laugh out loud. It turned out that watching the video on the internet was very funny, and watching the live version was even more enjoyable, more interesting than watching a skit. Cao Cao, who was standing next to him, also laughed and laughed, attracting many angry looks, and then he calmed down. Thank you, everyone. I will go into seclusion in a while and break through the next bottleneck. Before that, I will accept a group of registered disciples, and my disciples will teach them the basic Qigan practice methods. Master He looked at the audience and said calmly, but Su Weifeng saw the pride hidden in his eyes. I sign up, Master. My name is Don't Block Me. I want to become your disciple. Hearing that Master He was going to accept disciples, the audience immediately became chaotic, and many people were about to rush forward. If they were too late, there would be no place left. Master He said it was a group, not everyone. Fortunately, there were security personnel on the scene to maintain order. Before Master He announced that he was accepting disciples, the security personnel had already arrived in front of the passages of each row, otherwise there would really be a stampede. Everyone, be quiet, be quiet. Master He saw that there was already a commotion below, and hurriedly shouted, and Master He's words immediately took effect. I accept disciples based on fate. I can't accept all of them. There are too many people and I can't teach them all. Originally, I didn't plan to charge for teaching disciples, but the previous disciples, that is, some of you will be your senior brothers and sisters in the future, all took the initiative to pay. Of course, this money is not for me personally, but as a development fund for our Qigan. This is also for the development of our Qigan and to allow more people to benefit from Qigan. So, this time, I will accept disciples just like your senior brothers and sisters. I will also charge a registration fee of 100,000 yuan. This way, they will feel balanced, and they will have no resistance to teach you. Master He talked about his purpose of charging, and completely got rid of the label, that this is to make money. When they heard about the fee, the people below didn't react at first. The tickets for a lecture are not cheap. The seats in the back row are hundreds of yuan each, not to mention the seats in the front row. It's okay to charge a little. But when they heard that the registration fee was 100,000, many people were immediately scared. Except for a few rich people, most of them are ordinary people. This 100,000 is not a small amount. It's really expensive to pay so much to become a disciple. I'll sign up. Tao Zijian was the first to shout, and at the same time he stood up and raised his right hand high. Master, he saw that it was the VIP seat in the first row, and his face was full of smiles. These were all big customers. It looked like Tao Zijian might be the young master of some family. Such a sponsor must be well maintained. In the future, it will not only be this registration fee, but also some sponsorship from time to time. Young man, please come on stage. I see that you have a clear mind, and you are a spiritual person. You will definitely achieve something by practicing Mikigan. If you work hard, your achievements in the future may not be less than mine. Master, he looked at Tao Zijian in surprise, as if he saw a precious jade, and his tone was full of praise. Tao Zijian was overjoyed when he heard that Master he had such a high evaluation of him. He excitedly walked onto the stage and stood aside and tried to wink at Su Weifeng and Tao Tao, asking them to come up quickly, but the two shook their heads and ignored him, which made him stomp his feet in anger. We sign up too. We sign up too. Zhang Gaoji shouted and stood up with Jia Bingbing and was also invited to the stage by Master He. Tao Tao disdained to look at these fools, took out his notebook and started typing away. Su Weifeng looked at it, but didn't understand it, so he continued to watch the skit. With someone taking the lead, the atmosphere below suddenly became lively again. From time to time, someone stood up and walked to the stage. Some people with average conditions, encouraged by the atmosphere on the stage, gritted their teeth and walked to the front, ready to take out all their savings. If they lost money, they could make money. This opportunity to worship Master He as a teacher is not common. If you miss this time, there will be no next time. In just a short while, there were 50 or 60 people standing on the stage. Although the stage was large, it was also packed. Master He looked at this speech and saw so many people in the apprenticeship ceremony, and he couldn't close his mouth with laughter. These were not human beings, but red RMB. The next step was to kneel down and worship the teacher. According to the plan, all the registered disciples knelt together and held the worship ceremony. The reporters would take pictures and interview the new registered disciples and Master He, but as soon as the personnel were in place, the reporters also set up their guns and sprints, waiting for it to start. At this time, a discordant voice came. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 789, Ruining the Scene. Wait, this is a liar. I don't believe it. A muscular man with a height of 1.85 meters suddenly stood up from the audience and walked to the stage. People on and off the stage were all stunned. They didn't expect that at this time, when the apprenticeship ceremony was being held, such a sound would appear. The reporter's camera immediately pointed at the muscular man. They were not afraid of big trouble, but they were afraid that nothing would happen. Otherwise, how could their program attract attention? Someone is ruining the show. This time it's interesting. Tao Tao finally put down the notebook in his hand and immediately became interested. When he heard the voice just now, he was startled and thought it was Pei Yi and Lin Zhuangsun. It turned out not to be them. However, he also looked at the muscular man with interest, hoping that the muscular man could bring him some surprises. This young man, you may have some misunderstandings about Kigen in our country. Kigen has always existed. It is normal for people who don't understand it not to believe it. You will understand the benefits of Kigen after you come to my class a few times. Master He was not angry, but still had a kind smile, and was very cultured even in the face of doubts. Sir, may I ask your name? Why do you say Master He is a liar? As soon as the muscular man stepped onto the stage, a local radio reporter jumped up and asked. Seeing that their colleagues had gotten there first, reporters from other radio stations wanted to rush to the muscular man, but were stopped by security personnel who were maintaining order. The first reporter was very proud when he saw his colleagues below being stopped. How could he get the first-hand news if he was not fast enough as a reporter? I'm a fitness coach. My father was fooled by this film and became his registered disciple. He is a liar. Give me back the money. The muscular man shouted. Su Weifeng looked at the muscular man's figure. He was really tall and mighty. With his coming here to make trouble, it seemed that Master He was in trouble. Maybe he would have to return the money to him. It would be better for this gorilla to beat up that old man. It would be nice. Cao Cao was afraid that the world would not be in chaos and excitedly pulled Su Weifeng and said, "That's impossible. There are so many people here. If you want to fight, you will be pulled apart immediately. There is no chance at all." Su Weifeng said with a smile, "Just kidding. If these believers kicked the man, he would have to go to the hospital. I don't care if you are a master or not. I don't believe in this. I just believe in my own training. Look at my muscles. Only with muscles can you be strong," the muscular man said, and posed like a bodybuilder, showing off his chest muscles. So big. Cao Cao looked at the muscular man's chest muscles and almost drooled. He reached into Su Weifeng's clothes and wanted to touch Su Weifeng's chest muscles. Su Weifeng pulled him out. Cao Cao really has no taboos. With so many people around, he dared to do anything. Hearing the young man's words, the crowd on the stage, who were preparing to become his apprentices, also became a little chaotic. They started to discuss, but they still firmly believed that Master He was definitely not a liar. "So you don't have any evidence to prove that Master He is a liar?" the reporter continued to ask. I just don't believe his Kigen is real. If I punch him and he's fine, then I believe Kigen is real." The muscular man was a little speechless. He really didn't have any evidence. Suddenly he thought of something and shouted hurriedly. There was a cry of surprise at the scene. Even the reporters were shocked. Look at the muscular man's gorilla-like body and sandbag-sized fists. Look at Master He. The comparison is like a bull and a goat. He will beat the old man to death. Although Master He's Kigen is powerful, the difference in body is too big. Shameless young people want to beat old people, a middle-aged woman said among the people waiting to become apprentices. That's right, Kigen is not a golden bell cover. No matter how powerful Kigen is, it can't stop the gorilla's fist. That's not necessarily true. Master He's Kigen is so powerful that he might be able to block it. The person who spoke didn't seem to be very confident. People started to talk about it. The muscular man wanted to beat Master He, which seemed to have aroused public anger. Listening to so many people's condemnation, the muscular man also felt guilty. Do you think this punch can make the old man vomit? Maybe he can even vomit his breakfast. Ha ha ha. Cao Cao laughed. Fortunately, the scene was quite chaotic and no one heard her voice. Su Weifeng did not speak, but stared at the field with a smile. I wonder what he was thinking? In that case, then come and punch me and try it. It doesn't matter if I get hurt. I just want people to change their prejudice and misunderstanding of Kigen. Let you also truly understand Kigen. Master He said very seriously, with a calm look in his eyes. Ah. The reporter who was interviewing exclaimed. He didn't expect that Master He would really dare to accept this challenge. Is Master He's Kigen real? Otherwise, how could he dare to accept this challenge and let this gorilla punch him? Cao Cao said in disbelief. You'll know when you see it. Su Weifeng stared at the muscular man on the field with interest. Dear audience, Master He has accepted this gentleman's challenge. Look at his muscles. His arms are thicker than my legs. I'm really worried for Master He. We are going to witness a miracle soon. Wait a minute, we'll be back soon. The reporters in the audience also began their own reports. They were all excited. They were here today. This news must be eye-catching. The staff began to organize the people on the stage, who were ready to become apprentices, to retreat to the stage, leaving enough space for Master He and the challenger, the muscular man, to move around. Soon the preparations were done, leaving the stage to Master He and the muscular man. Old man, let's make a promise in advance. If I hit you with one punch, I won't be responsible. The muscular man said first, fearing that he would kill Master He with one punch and cause trouble for himself. Everyone present can prove that you don't have to be responsible if you kill me with one punch. Master He said with a smile, with a calm face, quite like a master. Dear audience, the master's promise is equivalent to signing a verbal life and death agreement. I really don't know what the result will be. Why am I so nervous? A TV host explained to the camera. Now Mr. Fitness has already taken a pose and is ready to attack at any time, but Master He still has no reaction. He just stands there casually, as if his whole body is full of flaws, and it seems that there are no flaws. Everyone stared at him with wide eyes. If you can't take my punch, it proves that your Kigen is fake, and you have to return my father's 100,000 yuan to me. The muscular man said to Master He viciously. Okay, I promise you today. If I can't take your punch today, I will return your father's registration fee to you, and quit the Kigen world at the same time. Chapter 790 Reversal. As soon as Master He said this, not only did the muscle man expect it, but everyone in the audience was also stunned. This was too much. Retiring from the Kigen world was equivalent to a famous football player retiring at his peak. Not only would his income be affected, but this was also self-destructive. Could it be that Master He was so confident? It must be like this. Everyone looked at Master He expectantly, waiting for his performance. So confident? I really admire this old man. Cao Cao looked like he was watching a show, and he was also a little impatient. The reporters just hurriedly conveyed this explosive news to the audience. In fact, they didn't need to convey it. The audience in front of the TV had already heard Master He's voice, and the TV ratings for a few days suddenly soared. Sister Zhuangsun, do you think this Master He is real? Is he a real master? Sun Yumeng said to Lin Zhuangsun, puzzled. Haha, you'll know when you see it. Lin Zhuangsun said disdainfully. Sisters-in-law, this master must be fake. He must have reported our account. I will go find him in person one day and beat him up. I will record a video and post it online to see if he still dares to be so arrogant. Pei was also watching the live broadcast with Lin Zhuangsun and the others in the company at this time. He probably knew the relationship between these women and Boss Su. When there were no outsiders, they would call sisters-in-law. Lin Zhuangsun and the others were used to it. If you really go to Master He and beat him up, I don't know if he will still be so arrogant, but I know you will definitely have to stay in jail for a few years. Lin Zhuangsun said with a smile. It's really possible. This old liar may really call the police. Pei heard what Lin Zhuangsun said, and it was really the case. He immediately gave up the idea. It's better to beat this muscle man to death with one punch. Pei said viciously, as if he was a muscle man now. The muscular man on the stage shouted loudly and rushed towards Master He quickly. Every step was a loud bang, like a big drum, beating on people's hearts. The audience's hearts were lifted up, and some timid girls even covered their eyes. A tragic picture had already appeared in their hearts. There was no muffled sound. The muscular man's fist seemed to hit cotton and was firmly fixed on Master He's chest. After 0.5 seconds, the whole person flew backwards and sat heavily on the ground. There was a muffled sound, and Su Weifeng's VIP seat seemed to shake. The muscular man was stunned. His eyes were empty, as if he couldn't believe that all this was true. The thunderous applause in the hall rang again, and those apprentices were crazy. If someone hadn't stopped them, they would have rushed to the stage. Master He, I love you. There was also a voice of an old lady mixed in the cheers, but it was drowned out in an instant. Suddenly the muscular man stood up and rushed towards Master He again. This change scared everyone, but when the muscular man ran to the master, his knees suddenly softened, and he knelt down and kowtowed heavily. Master He, I surrender. Please accept me as your apprentice. I will pay the registration fee now. The muscular man was about to take out his mobile phone, but was stopped by Master He, who patted his shoulder, looked at the muscular man with satisfaction and nodded. A young man can be taught. A young man can be taught. As long as you have good intentions, you can become my student. Moreover, your father is also my disciple. It is a good story to accept you as my apprentice. Thank you, Master. Thank you, Master. The muscular man kowtowed like pounding garlic and became a complete admirer of Master He. Those who were waiting to become his apprentices were even more surprised to see that Master He was really so strong. Just now, many people did not think that Master He could take the punch of the muscular man. Now the muscular men were convinced. Some of them who were still a little skeptical also completely believed in Master He and were waiting for the apprenticeship ceremony. Cao Cao whispered a few words to Su Weifeng, and Su Weifeng smiled knowingly, stood up immediately, and walked to the stage in a few steps. This young man is also here to become a disciple, right? Wait for a while. The ceremony of becoming a disciple will be held soon. Those who want to become registered disciples can come up. The ceremony of becoming a disciple will start soon. The master was very excited when he saw Su Weifeng coming up, thinking that the situation just now had moved another hesitant person. After hearing the master's words, several people in the audience really walked to the side of the stage. They had been hesitating just now, but now after seeing the master's strength, they finally decided to become a disciple, and they had to borrow the registration fee. Master He suddenly found that Su Weifeng was still standing on the stage without moving, and did not come to the side of the stage, and he couldn't help but wonder. Master He, I want to sign up, but I don't know much about Qigong. I also want to try your Qigong. If it's true, I will become your disciple. Su Weifeng looked at Master He with a smile, his eyes full of sincerity. Su Weifeng saw that Master He's eyebrows jumped, and sneered in his heart. Let's see how you answer me. Master He was a little panicked. Who was this man? It was not set. How could an unexpected situation occur? Young man, I have used my power several times today. Now my internal power has not recovered. You can become a registered disciple first. I will let you experience it in person when there is a chance in the future. Master He quickly thought of a reasonable reason and said with regret, Master, please give me this opportunity. I'm very curious. If I hadn't experienced it in person today, I would not give up and would not be able to sleep. Su Weifeng pretended to be helpless. Look, it's Brother Su. Zhao Xiaoshu shouted. Why did he go to the scene? Lin Zhuangxuan said in disbelief. Could it be that Boss Su knew that Master He had cheated us and went to mess up the scene? Pei said excitedly, his eyes glowing green, wishing that the boss could punch this old thing to death. Brother Su doesn't know that this old man complained about us. Yumeng, Xiaoshu, did anyone tell Brother Su? Lin Zhuangxuan thought for a while and said, no, Sister Zhuangxuan, you said not to tell Brother Su first. How can I say it? Sun Yumeng shook her head. Zhao Xiaoshu also hurriedly said that it was not him. At this time, Pei admitted awkwardly that he said it when he called Boss Su to admit his mistake. He didn't expect that Boss Su really made trouble for Master He. It's okay, just say it, or tell him when he comes back. This time someone just happened to avenge us. Lin Zhuangxuan said indifferently. Seeing that Lin Zhuangxuan was not angry, Pei was relieved, and then became excited again. We should record the scene of the boss beating the old man He and post it on the internet. Now it's a speech. We can't sue the boss, even if we beat him. Pei said excitedly. After hearing his words, Lin Zhuangxuan and the other girls' eyes lit up. Why didn't they think of it before? They just called the editor and videographer to prepare to record the video. Chapter 791. Do you have insurance? The master is tired. Please step down first, sir, so as not to delay the ceremony of apprenticeship. A disciple of the master, who was also a staff member, walked onto the stage and said to Su Weifeng, the master's Qigong is world renowned. It is because of his strong internal strength that he has no problem sparring with professional boxers abroad. Today, he only used Qigong twice, which only took a few seconds. How could he be tired? Please give me a chance. Su Weifeng continued, determined not to give up. The smile on Master He's face gradually disappeared. This was the first time, since he appeared on the stage, that he did not smile at everyone. He stared at Su Weifeng intently. This person was here to cause trouble. The staff made a big mistake this time. This kind of person was not stopped. He was already on the stage, and was broadcast live, which made him too passive. Master, let him see what Qigong is, and make him convinced. Someone in the audience had already shouted. There was a leader, and people followed one after another, all asking the master to accept the challenge. Master He, the hit rate has exceeded 1 million now, and fans are giving gifts to watch your performance. A live broadcast platform host held a mobile phone and shouted while giving a close-up of Master He. Master He, the TV ratings have reached a new high, and offline viewers are asking you to accept his challenge. A reporter also said loudly, today's news must be very popular. Master He, Master He. Tao Tao stood up and waved her arms, shouting loudly, and raised the sign with Master He's name on it that Jia Bingbing brought next to her. Those who didn't know would think she was a fan of Master He. Master He, 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 Master He. The whole audience shouted Master He and cheered for Master He. Every time they watched Master He perform magic, they were so excited, and of course they couldn't miss it this time. Isn't that Tao Tao? Zhao Zhao said. At this time, the camera of the reporter of Yangcheng TV station was turned to the audience, and Tao Tao, the little lolly, was recognized at a glance. Tao Tao's pace is really a great assist. Sun Yumeng also laughed when she saw this scene. Tao Tao now seemed like a cheerleader, leading the people behind to shout loudly. With Tao Tao here, Master He is done this time. Lin Zhuangxuan also laughed. She had heard of some of Tao Tao's deeds. He was definitely a little devil. Who is this big-breasted lolly? You seem to know her. She acted so much like her. If you hadn't told me, I would have thought she was really an admirer of the old man. Pei said in surprise. She is also your sister-in-law. Lin Zhuangxuan said casually. She heard Su Weifeng talk about Tao Tao, Meng Keqing, and Song Zinan, and she was also designated as Su Weifeng's girlfriend. Pei was stunned. He looked at Tao Tao on TV, and then glanced at Lin Zhuangxuan and others. His admiration for the boss was beyond words. This boss had collected all kinds of women, including lolly, queen, cute girl, and student girl. Okay, I'll give you a chance. Master He's face turned green when he heard the screams from the audience. He had to take this punch today. The reporters from the TV stations also added fuel to the fire, hoping that the world would not be in chaos. Master He hated them to death. You can only be the last one today. I haven't been feeling well recently. No one else can try it later. Master He quickly declared in advance that, if one after another came up, it would cost him his life. Don't worry, there will be no one. After I experience it today, I guarantee you will be the last one. Su Weifeng said with a smile. Since you are more interested in kicking, and are sincere in becoming my disciple, I will not use the recoil force to avoid injuring you. The young man just now has trained his muscles, and has a stronger tolerance. You are so thin, that it is easy to injure you. Master He said in a concerned tone. The reason why Master He accepted Su Weifeng's challenge was that he saw that Su Weifeng was just an ordinary young man. Although he was not weak, he was not strong either. He had practiced martial arts to some extent, and he was fine after taking a punch. Of course, the biggest reason was that he was forced to do it. The hateful reporters and the hateful audience. Thank you, Master He. Su Weifeng said respectfully. Shall we start now? Su Weifeng asked. Come on. Master He took a breath, bent his legs slightly, and took a horse stance. This was not the case when he was dealing with the muscular man just now, and with his several disciples before. Dear audience, the master has already started to use his power. Don't blink. Although the master said that he would not use the recoil force, it is obvious that the master is more serious than before. Will this young man be injured? Let's wait and see. The reporter of the TV station became excited, and the emotions of the audience in front of the TV were aroused. Master He, Master He. The hall gradually became quiet, and only a few people who did not react were still cheering. Tao Zijian, Jia Bingbing and other candidates for the title all stared at Master He and Su Weifeng on the stage, all with excitement on their faces. They completely believed in Master He. Even the muscular man just now was directly bounced away. How could such a thin young man impress Master He? Is it impossible? Only Tao Zijian was nervous. He knew Su Weifeng's strength. Although Master He had kicking, he was still unsure whether he could block Su Weifeng's punch. Do you have insurance? Su Weifeng suddenly asked. Su Weifeng's words suddenly emerged in the quiet atmosphere. Everyone was stunned. Just when they wanted to laugh at Su Weifeng's arrogance, they saw Su Weifeng take action. Su Weifeng took a step forward with his left foot, clenched his left fist, and threw a front fist, accurately hitting Master He's chest. Master He only felt a strong wind coming, followed by a sharp pain in his chest, and the scenery around him quickly retreated. This time the result was still the same, but the person who flew out was not Su Weifeng. Master He was like a kite with a broken string, flying 4 or 5 meters, before falling to the ground. This was because Su Weifeng showed mercy, and did not even use 50% of his strength. Otherwise Master He would have been seriously injured if not dead. Ouch. Ouch, Master He kept groaning on the ground, and he couldn't get up, even if he wanted to. The scene was quiet. I didn't expect this situation to happen. Master He flew much farther than his disciples. Could this young man also be a master? Is he a Kigen master who is more powerful than Master He? The people in front of the TV were also stunned. Some people who were eating choked themselves. This plot reversal was too sudden. There was no preparation time at all. Master He's staff and apprentices rushed to the stage to help Master He up. Master He moved around and was able to move freely. Apart from the pain all over his body, he probably didn't suffer any injuries. Suddenly, the big screen behind the stage lit up. This was a video shot by a camera. Chapter 792 Never So Hot. At first, the video quality was not very clear. It seemed to be captured by a surveillance camera. In the video, two men were talking with their heads down. However, since it was only a surveillance camera, there was no sound recording, so only the image could be seen. The two men were talking and gesturing with their hands. Suddenly, an audience member shouted, "Look, that one seems to be a gorilla muscle man. Yes, this figure is too easy to recognize. What about the other one?" At first, only a few audience members saw it. After they shouted, the others also reacted. Master He also saw the video on the screen at this time. Suddenly, his legs went soft, and he sat on the ground with his hands covering his chest. His heartbeat suddenly accelerated, and then seemed to stop. "Come on, turn it off, turn it off." Master He shouted loudly to several disciples, and his voice was no longer as calm as before. At the same time as Master He shouted, his disciples also reacted, and were about to unplug the power supply of the screen. But before they could get close, a man blocked the big screen and smiled at the disciples who rushed over. "No one can get past me while I'm here." Su Weifeng sneered. Several disciples didn't even look at Su Weifeng, preparing to push away the people blocking the way. Su Weifeng suddenly moved, knocking down all of them with one punch. He didn't use much force, but it was enough to hurt them for a while. For a while, no one dared to move forward. They were not stupid. Whether it was this man who punched Master He and sent him flying 4 or 5 meters away, or just punched him and killed him, leaving him no chance to resist, this kind of strength was completely beyond the reach of these people. Just as these people were in a stalemate with Su Weifeng, a tall figure appeared behind them. "Boy, you hurt Master He. Today I will avenge my master." The one who spoke was the muscular gorilla. His two thick arms were bulging with muscles, and his fists as big as sandbags were blowing with a strong wind, hitting Su Weifeng's head. The audience below exclaimed. Many people had already noticed the fight on the big screen. When they saw the muscular man attacking Su Weifeng, they immediately became nervous. At this time, the muscular man was no longer in the same posture as when he attacked the master. The fierceness on his face, coupled with the speed of his attack, looked like he was going to beat him to death. The thin man on the stage was not beaten to death. When the muscular man attacked, Su Weifeng shook his body and easily dodged the huge fist. He vaguely saw him throw a punch, but before he could see where he hit, the muscular man flew up and fell to the ground 4 or 5 meters away, exactly the same as Master He just flew up. How is it possible? This gorilla was actually beaten by Brother Su. It must weigh more than 200 pounds. Jia Bingbing covered her mouth and said in disbelief, "What's the matter? My brother-in-law is the best fighter. What's a gorilla?" Tao Zijian said proudly. Now he also felt that there was something wrong with Master He. Is it because he is so powerful that Master He's Kigen couldn't block it? Someone whispered. Then he wouldn't be beaten away. Is this Master He fake? People whispered, thinking in their hearts. Some still believed in Master He, and some were already excited. "Ah, it's Master He. Yes, it's Master He. Why did Master He appear in the classroom with the muscular man? Didn't the muscular man come to cause trouble? How could he be with Master He before?" At this time, another man in the video turned his head, and the camera clearly captured his face. It was Master He without a doubt. Master He just stood there straight, and the muscular man took a step forward, punched Master He lightly in the chest, then stopped and jumped back a step. Master He shook his head and said something to him, and then the muscular man stood there motionless, and Master He took a step forward, punched the muscular man heavily in the chest, and then suddenly fell back and fell to the ground in embarrassment. Then the muscle man demonstrated several times, and finally it was similar to what Master He did. This is fake. It was rehearsed beforehand. We were fooled. Then those apprentices must be acting. Master He is a liar. Fortunately, this is my first time listening to a lecture. I almost signed up just now. Asshole. These believers finally understood what was going on. It turned out that this master was fake, and the so-called troublemaker was just an actor. Everything was done according to the script. The purpose was to increase people's trust. No, don't. Master He was desperate in the face of the angry crowd. Looking at the crowd rushing over, all he could do was hold his head. In the end, Master He, who was covered in bruises, was taken away by the police. Suddenly, there were several more secrets about Master He on the internet. It turned out that Master He was a fraudster when he was young, but because the circumstances were relatively minor, he was not arrested. Since Master He proclaimed himself a Kigen master, he has deceived his followers into donating to the development fund for more than a dozen times, with a total amount of more than 2 million yuan. He has also raped many followers, some of whom have given birth to children for him. The TV station's reporters have reported the entire process, and the people in front of the TV have also understood Master He's true face and immediately joined the army of online condemnation. Master He became popular all over the country in one day and even became a hot search celebrity on the internet in other countries. Of course, he was condemned by everyone. Master He has never been as popular as he is now, but unfortunately, this is no longer something he can decide. All he can do is wait for a fair trial in prison. Yeah. Su Weifeng and the excited Tao Tao clapped their hands. At this time, Su Weifeng had returned to the villa with Tao Tao and Tao Zijian. Third sister, you guys are so amazing. You really let that old man show his hand. I almost got fooled. I'm so angry. I have to find some connections to let that old man stay in there for a few more years to make up for my spiritual trauma. Tao Zijian said indignantly. He was really angry. He was like a fool. He boasted about how powerful Master He's Kigen was in front of his third sister and brother-in-law. He almost kowtowed to him and became his disciple. Just thinking about it made him want to dive into the crack of the ground. You don't need to find someone. You can check it out on the internet. I have already found a lot of his previous black jokes. It's enough for him to drink a pot. Now we can just be spectators. Tao Tao said proudly. Third sister, I really admire you. I can offend no one but you. You are more cruel than human flesh. Tao Zijian was a little scared when he saw Tao Tao. The level of the third sister was really hard to guard against. Who doesn't have a dark history? If you offend the third sister, Su Weifeng also nodded repeatedly. He was the most experienced in this regard. Chapter 793 King's House. A week later, the Su family in Su's house still had no action. The Tao family sent someone to get information, and they actually found out something. It turned out that before Su Yixiao returned, some problems had occurred within the Tao family. Although they didn't know what the specific problem was, it should be a thorny problem, so Su Yixiao's return did not cause any waves. The Tao family was also temporarily relieved. They didn't have to worry about the revenge of the Su family for the time being. They could also make some arrangements during this period. Tao Zijian basically spent this period of time under the destruction of Su Weifeng. Su Weifeng unexpectedly discovered that, although the character of the Tao family's 8th son was naughty and idle, he was still very determined to do things. As long as he could get up, he would insist on Su Weifeng's training every day, which made Su Weifeng look at him with admiration. This time, the time spent in Beijing was long enough. Su Weifeng finally returned to Yangcheng with Tao Tao. Of course, Tao Tao disappeared again after arriving at the airport. He really came and went without a trace, which amazed Su Weifeng, a professional. Brother Su. As soon as he walked to the exit, he saw 3 girls waving their arms at the exit. They were Lin Zhuangsun, Sun Yumeng and Zhao Xiaoshu. They hadn't seen Su Weifeng for so many days and had been missing him for a long time. Knowing that Su Weifeng would be back today, they came to the airport to pick him up early. Su Weifeng was walking towards the girls with a smile. There was a noise from behind, and Su Weifeng turned back subconsciously. Get out of the way, dare to block the way. Don't you want to live? A young man wearing black Cartier sunglasses was surrounded by 7 or 8 big men in black. The young man was hugging a blonde girl with blue eyes. She was white, beautiful and had long legs. She looked like a mixed race girl. Su Weifeng couldn't help but look at her a few more times. The group rushed to the exit recklessly, and passengers gave way along the way. But some passengers were very disdainful. Even those who didn't give way were pushed aside by several big men in black. Under the warning of vicious eyes, they dared not say anything. Su Weifeng watched these people push all the way to his front, frowning slightly, but he did not intend to avoid them. Get out of the way quickly, a good dog does not block the road. A man in black said viciously, and at the same time, a thick hand was about to grab Su Weifeng's shoulder, trying to push him aside. Su Weifeng just stood there, smiling at the man in black, and did not dodge, allowing the man in black to grab his shoulder. The man in black exerted force with his big hand, but found that this force could not shake Su Weifeng at all. He gritted his teeth, and exerted all his strength, but Su Weifeng still did not move at all. This was beyond his expectation. The young man who was surrounded was blocked, and was very unhappy. The big man felt the young man's gaze, and the hair on his back stood up. Knowing that his master was angry, he dared not neglect it. He retracted his big hand, and punched Su Weifeng in an instant. At this time, many passengers had gathered around. They were angry, but did not dare to speak. When they saw someone stand up, they immediately stopped and looked around excitedly. Seeing that the young man who didn't give way was about to be beaten, the others were also very angry. This was the feeling of the rabbit dying, and the fox mourning. Someone secretly started filming, and prepared to post it online. As soon as the big hand of the black-clothed man came in front of Su Weifeng gently held it. But the others seemed to be holding it gently, but in the black-clothed man's mind, it was not a hand that held his fist at this time, but a pair of pliers. At this time, he couldn't even retract his hand. He was firmly fixed in the air. He was very embarrassed, but at the same time he was more anxious, and cold sweat gradually broke out on his head. You don't have anything, go back and get out of here. The surrounded young man was very dissatisfied with this subordinate and said coldly. At this time, Su Weifeng also let go of the fist of the black-clothed man, and turned to look at the young man. This road belongs to everyone. You are too much. Why should others give way to you? Su Weifeng said calmly. That's right, being rich is great. If you have money, you can buy the airport. A young passenger who was watching the excitement on the side couldn't help but speak up and express his dissatisfaction. Before he finished speaking, a big man in black came up to him. Seeing that the big man in black was staring at him, the young man dared not speak anymore. He quickly shut his mouth and shrank aside and dared not speak again. Boy, you are brave to talk to me like this. The young man laughed when he saw that Su Weifeng dared to question him. But you are really ignorant, and ignorance is fearless. The young man's face suddenly sank, and he looked at Su Weifeng with disdain. Boy, do you know who this is? This is Moses King, the young master of the King family in K country, Madagascar, California. The mixed-race girl looked at Su Weifeng as if he was looking at an idiot and said disdainfully, "Wow, isn't this girl Jessica? That flat model, debuted at the age of 18, and is also well known in the modeling industry." A girl watching suddenly recognized Jessica and said excitedly, "I heard she's a Chinese of foreign nationality, and she seems to have grown up in China." The girl's companion also said. Through their conversation, the others also knew who this mixed-race girl was. Looking at the girl and the young master of the King family, they both had ambiguous looks on their faces. This mixed-race little model must have married into a wealthy family. What's wrong with Country K? This is China. How dare a young master from Country K come to China and act wild? Do you think it's young Master Jin? Su Weifeng's eyes became sharp, and he looked at the young man and Jessica with even more unkindness. As a soldier, Su Weifeng defended his own country. How could the young master of the family of Country K go wild in his own country? This is absolutely intolerable. HMPH, I came to discuss investment with you Yangcheng. It was your Yangcheng family who invited me here. If it weren't for your family's repeated requests, our King family wouldn't care about a small Yangcheng. Our K country and China are friendly countries. How can I act wildly? There is no need for me to touch a small character like you. If the Yang Cheng family can't do such a small thing, then they don't need to talk to me. Young Master Jin said disdainfully. He didn't dare to admit that he dared to act wildly in China. This hat was too big, and he couldn't bear it. Boy, you wait. Someone will take care of you in a while. I'll watch here, and it will be too late for you to beg for mercy. Now I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and kowtow to me 10 times, and I'll let you go. Young Master Jin said proudly. According to his experience since childhood, as long as he told his identity, the men would kowtow and admit their mistakes, and the women would throw themselves into his arms. This feeling of controlling everything was too good. Chapter 794. No one can save you. But this time he was obviously wrong. The young man in front of him was not frightened at all. He looked at him with a cold face, and the corners of his mouth were unconsciously raised. He was laughing at him. Master Jin was obviously angry. No one had ever treated him like this. Have you ever heard of a saying, friends come from afar? Su Weifeng said calmly. Isn't it nice? Haha, you are sensible. Bow 3 times and I will let you go. Master Jin still knew little about Chinese culture. After hearing what Su Weifeng said, his face looked better. There is another saying, enemy comes from afar. Su Weifeng said to himself. Master Jin was obviously stunned. He was still thinking in his mind. Is there such a saying? Why don't you remember it? He must be killed. Su Weifeng said in a cold voice, word by word. Okay, brother Su said it well. Lin Zhuangxun said loudly. Lin Zhuangxun, Sun Yumeng and Zhao Xiaoshu just saw Su Weifeng and the group clashing, and they were anxious and wanted to run in, but unfortunately they were stopped by the security guards at the exit and could not enter. They finally managed to sneak in. Boy, you dare to tease me, beat me, but don't die. Master Jin's face changed, and he shouted in anger. Are these your women? Boy, you have good taste, I will take them for you. Master Jin only noticed Lin Zhuangxun and the other 2 at this time. Each of them was a beauty with different styles, and his eyes unconsciously shone. How dare those men in black neglect their master's orders, especially the big man in black who had just taken action. He had just lost face in front of his master, so he rushed in first this time, ready to perform well, and try to make up for his mistakes. Young Master Jin and the mixed-race girl Jessica looked at Su Weifeng who was about to be beaten with pride, and they were very happy in their hearts. However, they were not happy for a few seconds, before they saw their men falling down one after another, as if they had rehearsed it. The movements were neat and uniform. On the left, one fell down. On the right, another one fell down. Young Master Jin stared at the scene in front of him in amazement. He simply could not believe his eyes. In less than a minute, these bodyguards were all knocked down, and it seemed that they would not be able to get up for a while. These bodyguards of his were hired at a high price. There were champions of various fighting competitions, and retired soldiers from foreign troops. They were knocked down by one person. What did this person do? But, a young man watching applauded. Well done, fake foreign devil, you came to China to bully people, dreaming. A gray-haired old man said excitedly, his face flushed. Why is it that the black family and the white family, white plus black, can't work in China? A middle-aged man suddenly became heroic, as if he had released the anger in his heart. Beat him to death. Beat him to death. Those who like to watch the fun are not afraid of big trouble. The crowd around them came alive at this time. Without the deterrent power of those big men in black, they cheered. Some young people were eager to beat up the young Master Jin. In their eyes, foreign young masters are really not as deterrent as local young masters. Brother Su, are you okay? Lin Zhuangxun said, pulling Su Weifeng's arm. Brother Su, the 3 girls all asked Su Weifeng with concern. Although they knew that Su Weifeng was a powerful martial artist and these people were no match for him, they were still subconsciously worried. Su Weifeng comforted the girls for a while, and looked at the young Master Jin with a cold look. At this time, Master Jin felt cold in his heart. He was in a foreign country, and didn't expect such a thing to happen. He only brought these bodyguards this time. Now he was the only one left. As for the girl in his arms, he simply ignored her, and said she was just a pet. Suddenly, his eyes lit up, and he saw a group of people coming in against the flow of people at the exit, holding up a sign welcoming Master Jin. I'm here. Is this how you welcome me? Our king family came to your Yangcheng and was humiliated. Master Jin shouted loudly, looking at the group of people who broken with cold eyes, as if he was a superior. Master Jin, I'm sorry, I scared you. We will definitely give you a satisfactory answer, and anyone who offends Master Jin will be made to disappear. A middle-aged man in a casual suit shouted before he walked in. He saw the situation here from a distance. Master Jin's black-clad bodyguards were lying on the ground, and there was only one young man standing in front of Master Jin. It was hard to guess what was going on. Our Du family will definitely avenge young Master Jin. Young Master Jin, calm down. The middle-aged man continued, looking coldly at Su Weifeng's back while speaking, secretly hating who this kid was. Young Master Jin was invited by several families. If the cooperation is successful, the status of his family will be significantly improved. Young Master Jin, if you hand this kid over to our Li family, you will definitely be satisfied. Another middle-aged man said viciously. He also introduced himself in an attempt to leave a good impression on young Master Jin. 4 or 5 families came at this time. Young Master Jin saw that the families who invited him had arrived, as well as the family team of more than 100 people, and he immediately felt relieved. The panic just now completely disappeared, and he looked at Su Weifeng with a sneer. I said, it will be too late to kowtow to me later. Now you just wait to die. As for these women, I will comfort them well. Ha 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 ha. Young Master Jin seemed to have become a king who controlled the life and death of others, and his self-confidence was overflowing. When the tourists who were watching just now saw these families, no one dared to speak. Most of them were locals in Yangcheng, and they knew something about these families. Now these families were obviously here to welcome young Master Jin, and they could not afford to offend him. They immediately stepped aside and whispered something to their companions. Young Master Jin is a noble, and you, a commoner, are really looking for death. Jessica was also in high spirits at this time, and said to Su Weifeng with disdain. As for how many women young Master Jin wanted to play with, she didn't care at all. She was just after young Master Jin's money and power. Lin Zhuangxuan and Sun Yumeng looked at young Master Jin like an idiot, and couldn't help but mourn for him. Young Master Jin from this country was really a fool. Maybe he was not stupid, but just too unlucky to meet Su Weifeng. Boy, you have offended Master Jin today. Even if you know someone, it is useless. No one can save you. A young man from the Du family said viciously. He was also the representative of the younger generation of the Du family, so he was sent to welcome Master Jin. Humph. Master Jin looked at Su Weifeng coldly, feeling very happy. No one can save me? Su Weifeng sneered and turned around, looking back at the young man who was speaking. Yes, no one. The young man from the Du family was about to speak, but was suddenly stunned and could not continue. Chapter 795 Hello Mr. Su. Seeing the performance of the young man from the Du family, Master Jin frowned. Could it be that this man really had some background? But even if he had a background, what would it matter? How could a small Yangcheng compare with his own king family? It was a compliment to him to hit a rock with an egg. But the next scene made him open his mouth wide. He saw the young man from the Du family kneel down with a plop. Mr. Su, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was you. If I knew it was you, I wouldn't dare to do it, even if I had the courage. Don't be so mean to me. The young man from the Du family said pitifully, with a very sincere attitude. He hated it so much. Why didn't he recognize Su Weifeng? This Su Weifeng was also a liar. Why did he turn his back to them? Otherwise, they wouldn't dare to talk to Su Weifeng like this. Hello, Mr. Su. Hello, Mr. Su. People from the Du family, the Li family and other families greeted Su Weifeng one after another, completely leaving Master Jin aside. Seeing how respectful these families were to Su Weifeng, Master Jin was shocked. Who was this man? Aren't the Yangcheng families that were in contact with him first-class families? Why were so many families so respectful to this man? How could this be possible? The tourists watching around were even more stunned. Who was this young man who had vented their anger for them? Even so many families were afraid of him. They knew how powerful these families were. Some of them were already regretting it secretly. If they had gone up to help just now, they might have left a good impression on this big shot. Then they might have joined his hands and become rich. Is this how you invited our king family? Or are you playing tricks on our king family? Master Jin shouted. The leaders of several families were embarrassed and anxious. The King family was not easy to mess with, and it took a lot of effort and connections to invite the envoys of the King family. But now it's not good for anyone to have a conflict with Master Jin. It doesn't matter if it's the young master of any family. They can suppress it by uniting several families. But this is Su Weifeng. It is a taboo for all families in Yangcheng. If you offend him, the consequences are as follows. The lightest punishment is to lose some money, but this is also in the hundreds of millions. The worst punishment is that the family will disappear directly. This is not an isolated case. What are you going to do? Su Weifeng also smiled at the leaders of these families. Su Weifeng's question immediately made these powerful people who have experienced ups and downs sweat. This person wants to see their attitude. The two teams must choose one. It's not okay to stand in the middle. Master Jin felt a little aggrieved. With the name of the King family, he is treated as a VIP wherever he goes. When did anyone dare to hesitate? The people of the Du family, the Li family and other families exchanged glances, gritted their teeth, and made a quick decision. Mr. Su, how do you think we should deal with it? We will definitely do it properly. The Du family came out first. Yes, Mr. Su, we all listen to you. The people of several families expressed their opinions and stood firmly on the side of Su Weifeng. What King family? They didn't know at all. Well, you are giving up cooperation with my King family? Do you know what this means to you? How much will you lose? Young Master Jin said angrily. He believed that these families might not think too seriously. After all, they are small families with short-sightedness. If they understand the gains and losses, I don't believe they will give up the benefits they have obtained. However, he underestimated these families, or underestimated Su Weifeng's influence. These families were bleeding in their hearts. How could they not know how much they would lose if the cooperation failed? But they still gritted their teeth and decided to give up the benefits. The distant benefits are far less important than the survival of the family at present. With the decision, they relaxed. This foreign kid dares to go wild in my China. What do you say we should do? Su Weifeng was very satisfied with the attitude of these families. There is no one to bully our country, so break his legs first. The leaders of each family were thinking about Su Weifeng's problem, which posed a problem for them. They didn't know what Su Weifeng was thinking. If they said something wrong and angered Su Weifeng, it would be more trouble than gain. At this time, the young man of the Du family who had started to kneel spoke loudly, and he also looked like an angry young man. Seeing that Su Weifeng did not object, the young man rushed forward and kicked Master Jin to the ground, scaring the mixed-race model Jessica next to him to scream. With the young man of the Du family taking the lead, there was no need for the leader of the family to give orders. The young men of the other families rushed forward and punched and kicked Master Jin, fearing that they would fall behind others. This opportunity to please Su Weifeng was rare, and they secretly hated that they were taken by the people of the Du family. Master Jin's terrified voice came, and the whole person had disappeared in the crowd. In the end, it was Su Weifeng who spoke, and the young masters of these families reluctantly retreated, leaving only Master Jin lying on the ground wailing constantly. Fortunately, he was not dead from the sound. You guys. Wait, dear, be angry Buddha. Master Jin had lost 2 teeth, and his speech was a little leaky. There are many young people who are angry, and the young masters of these families are no exception. They fought with all their might, using all their strength. Su Weifeng looked at young Master Jin indifferently, without a trace of sympathy. There are many young masters of a big family who are arrogant, but it is wrong to be arrogant in China. $1 billion. Let his family lead the people, as the price for coming to our country to bully us. It should not be too much, right? Su Weifeng said to the heads of several families. Several people expressed their opinions, and handed it over to them to deal with, so that Su Weifeng could rest assured. Su Weifeng was quite satisfied with the attitude of these families. He nodded to them, took Lin Zhuangxuan and other girls, and left the airport under the gaze of everyone. As for young Master Jin, Jessica, who was in a daze, and a group of bodyguards were taken away by the Du family and others. This will be a big business, and they still need to prepare for many things. Back in his villa, Su Weifeng lay on the sofa. Lin Zhuangxuan massaged his head and shoulders. Sun Yumeng and Zhao Xiaoshu massaged his legs. Su Weifeng relaxed. At this moment he felt relaxed physically and mentally. This is his safe haven, and these girls who massaged him are his lovers, and they love him even more. Su Weifeng's relaxed brain gradually became a little dazed, and slowly entered that state. This time he was not intimate with a girl. This was the first time. Several girls noticed Su Weifeng's situation. They were all familiar with this state, but they did not expect it to happen at this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 796 Yushan or Zuan Zuan. Lin Zhuangxuan was about to speak but stopped. The girls looked at each other and did not speak. They were afraid of disturbing Su Weifeng's recovery and gently massaged Su Weifeng. This time, Su Weifeng's state lasted for more than 2 hours, and there was still no sign of awakening, which made the girls a little anxious. Brother Su, is he not obsessed with practicing martial arts? I saw it on TV. It's been almost 3 hours. Zhao Xiaoshu poked Su Weifeng with his finger, and said when he didn't respond. He didn't stay in this state for so long before. Did you have this situation when you were with him? Lin Zhuangxuan said uneasily. Zhao Xiaoshu and Sun Yumeng shook their heads, saying that they had never been in this state for so long, and now was too much. Could it be that we usually help Brother Su recover alone, but this time there are 3 of us together, so the time is added together? Sun Yumeng blinked and said thoughtfully. Lin Zhuangxuan's eyes lit up. This guess was not impossible. If that was the case, she could get Feng Baoer, Zhu Xiaoxuan, Tao Tao, etc. to come and give Brother Su a massage. The degree of recovery should be considerable. Just as she was fantasizing, she was suddenly awakened by Su Weifeng's voice. Who? The girls were stunned. They looked at each other and then attacked together. Su Weifeng woke up with a scream. What happened? Why are you still pinching me? Su Weifeng said with a wronged look. You made us worry for so long. It turns out that you fell asleep. Lin Zhuangxuan stared at Su Weifeng. Yes, Brother Su, we are all very anxious. Sun Yumeng also said angrily. That's right. I thought you were possessed and had to be reconciled with yin and yang to be saved. Zhao Xiaoshu said with a sinister smile. Xiaoshu, you are so shameless. Sun Yumeng blushed and pushed Zhao Xiaoshu. Yeah, Xiaoshu, you can't wait, right? Lin Zhuangxuan said with a smirk. I was just joking. She felt embarrassed to be laughed at by Lin Zhuangxuan and Sun Yumeng. Su Weifeng was awake now, frowning and thinking, but his frown was getting tighter and tighter. Several girls noticed that Su Weifeng hadn't spoken for so long, and they couldn't help but worry again. Brother Su, what's wrong with you? Lin Zhuangxuan asked first. Just now I really entered that state, but it didn't take long before I fell asleep. I wonder if the effect of the treatment has weakened, and the effect of 3 people together is about the same as before, when you were alone, or it's not calculated according to the number of people. Su Weifeng thought about it, and said in confusion. Several people studied together for a long time, but they didn't come up with any results, so they had to give up temporarily. At night, Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan were warm and pure. As the saying goes, a short separation is better than a new marriage, and the door outside suddenly rang. The two didn't care, thinking that Liu King and the others went to throw away the garbage. After a while, the door was suddenly pushed open. Son. Su Weifeng's mother just called out. Then she was stunned, and hurriedly closed the door. It turned out that Su Weifeng's mother and father were attending a friend's party. The hotel was near Su Weifeng's villa, so they planned to stay here for one night. They knew that Qiao Yushan was still on a business trip and had not returned, so they wanted to come up to see their son. Unexpectedly, Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan hurriedly got up, tidied up their pajamas, and then walked out of the room together. Mom and Dad, why are you here so late? Is there something urgent? Lin Zhuangxuan said with some worry. She was not pretending. For Shenji and Sukiango, she treated them as her parents and had a good relationship with them. Yushan, aren't you on a business trip in the provincial capital? I didn't hear that you were back today. Shenji looked at Lin Zhuangxuan with some doubts. Sukayango stared at Lin Zhuangxuan's face, trying to see something from it, but he didn't see anything, except a little redness. Mom, I came back temporarily today, to deal with some company matters, and I have to go back tomorrow morning. Lin Zhuangxuan said calmly, but in fact, she was nervous. Your father and I are going to a party near you, so we plan to stay here for one night. I hope we won't disturb you. Shenji said with a smile. How could that be? This is your and my father's home. You should go to bed early. Lin Zhuangxuan said hurriedly. Shenji and Sukayango entered their rooms, and both of them looked a little strange. Yushan said yesterday that she would not be able to return to Yangcheng for the next month. Why did she come back today? Our son won't. Shenji said, pointing to the direction of Lin Zhuangxuan's room outside. You go and have a look. Sukayango's face was not good either, and he was even more worried. After thinking about it, he said. Shenji felt that it was a little late, and it was not good to disturb Lin Zhuangxuan, but he decided to solve the doubts in his heart. He opened the door, and walked to Lin Zhuangxuan's door and knocked gently. There was no movement, and Shenji and Sukayango, who was eavesdropping in the corridor, were both worried. Who is it? A confused voice sounded. It was Lin Zhuangxuan. Zhuangxuan is me, godmother. Shenji finally breathed a sigh of relief. Godmother, why are you here so late? Lin Zhuangxuan came out after opening the door and rubbing her eyes. Shenji looked at Lin Zhuangxuan carefully. The pajamas she was wearing were not the ones Yushan had worn just now, and there were marks on her face from sleeping, but Yushan had not worn them just now. Only then did he feel relieved. After a few simple words, he went back to the room on the pretext of going back to the room, and Lin Zhuangxuan went back to sleep in a daze. Zhuangxuan is at home. It seems that we thought too much. Shenji sat on the bed and breathed. Are you sure it was Zhuangxuan? Sukayango only heard the voice in the corridor, but did not see anyone, and said uncertainly, of course it was Zhuangxuan. Could it be Yushan? If it was Yushan, then the one just now was Zhuangxuan. It's a bit confusing. Shenji said, and he became a little confused. How is it? Did my mother believe it? Su Weifeng, who had already taken Lin Zhuangxuan back to his bedroom, asked in a low voice. Of course, don't forget that I'm a professional. Lin Zhuangxuan was very proud. Fortunately we have made preparations in advance. If the window of your room is locked, it will be troublesome for us to get in. Su Weifeng said. I also want you to take me to climb walls and fly over roofs. It's so fun. Lin Zhuangxuan said excitedly with her head on Su Weifeng's shoulder. But why do I feel that the one in Zia Feng's room looks so much like Zhuangxuan? Although she speaks like Yushan, her temperament feels a bit like Zhuangxuan. Sukayango still felt a little uneasy and felt something was wrong. You are suspicious. Go to bed quickly. Zhuangxuan, you have seen it all. What are you worried about? Shenji rolled his eyes at Sukayango and said, I can't say for sure. I just feel uneasy. How about you try again? Sukayango said to Shenji. How can I try again? I just knocked on the door, and I'm going to knock on Zhuangxuan's door again. Shenji was a little impatient. Chapter 797 Mission. Shenji knew that, if the old man didn't let him give up, he wouldn't be able to sleep well tonight, so he had to agree to try again. However, Shenji didn't go out. Instead, he picked up his phone, sent a video invitation, and waited for the video to be connected. Soon the video was connected, and Qiao Yushan appeared on the screen, wearing a professional suit. She had just returned to the hotel, and had no time to change clothes. Mom? What's wrong? I just returned to the hotel. Qiao Yushan said with a smile. It's okay. I accidentally came across a picture I sent you before. You just finished work so late. Don't be too tired, and rest early. Shenji's facial muscles were a little stiff, but he still said, I'm very tired today, Mom. You should rest early too, and we'll talk again when we have time. Qiao Yushan had 2 meetings today, and was exhausted physically and mentally. Now she just wanted to take a shower and have a good sleep. She didn't realize that the environment in Shenji's video was a little familiar. After Shenji hung up the video, he was completely dazed. Sukayango didn't need to ask Shenji at all. He saw it clearly from the side. Qiao Yushan was really in the provincial capital and didn't come back. Now only Lin Zhuangxuan was at home. What should I do? My son is cheating on you. It must be up to you. Shenji wanted to cry but couldn't. He didn't expect such a thing to happen. Why is it up to me? I'm devoted to you. The moon represents my heart. Sukayango said hurriedly. He had a clear conscience, but women were sometimes unreasonable. Yushan is such a good wife, but Xiaofeng doesn't cherish her. I must break his legs tomorrow. Sukayango said angrily. What if Yushan knows about this? She will have to divorce Xiaofeng. Shenji said. Don't worry too much. If Yushan divorces Xiaofeng because of this, it's his own fault. Don't blame others. Sukayango said. Alas, Xiaofeng has such a good wife, but he still flirts with Zhuangxuan. Although Zhuangxuan is also very good, you are already married. Shenji said to himself. Yushan and Zhuangxuan are both very good. If he really gets together with Zhuangxuan, it doesn't seem unacceptable. Shenji suddenly muttered, and he was shocked. What are you talking about? Sukayango was shocked. He didn't expect Shenji to have such an idea. If you say that, it was a bit strange before. When Xiaofeng and Yushan were not married, they came to live in our house. I felt that Yushan's personality was changeable. Sometimes she was mature and stable, and sometimes she was lively and cheerful. It was not until I met Zhuangxuan that I knew that Zhuangxuan was usually lively and cheerful, while Yushan was mature and stable. At that time, you said that the two of them were too similar, and sometimes their personalities were similar. Could it be that Xiaofeng didn't bring back Yushan at that time, but Yushan and Zhuangxuan? Sukayango suddenly said out his guess, which had been suppressed in his heart for a long time and he never dared to say it out loud. If you say so, it's not impossible. Shenji was also frightened by this speculation. If Sukayango had said so before, she would have scolded him. But with what happened now, thinking about it carefully, it seems that this is really possible. Suddenly, she felt that things were getting more and more complicated, and she didn't know what to do. The two of them studied until midnight, but there was no good way. Now that things were made clear, the situation might be worse. If Xiaofeng was with another woman, Shenji and Sukayango would not hesitate at all. Whether it was beating or scolding, they would use all means to make Xiaofeng break off the relationship with that woman. But Zhuangxuan is Yushan's cousin. It is impossible to break off the relationship and stop communicating. Moreover, they like Zhuangxuan very much. If there was no Yushan, they would be very satisfied to let Zhuangxuan be their daughter-in-law. So they finally decided to pretend that they didn't know and let nature take its course. Children and grandchildren have their own blessings, and this kind of thing cannot be forced. However, the old couple is destined to be sleepless tonight. In the morning, Shenji and Sukayango, who had two panda eyes, came out for breakfast and saw Lin Zhuangxuan, who was already pulling a suitcase and preparing to go out. After saying hello, Lin Zhuangxuan hurried out of the villa. Shenji and Sukayango looked at each other with bitter smiles in their eyes, but when they saw Lin Zhuangxuan, they didn't feel annoyed at all, and they liked Zhuangxuan from the bottom of their hearts. Su Weifeng and Lin Zhuangxuan didn't find anything unusual and thought they played their roles very well. It hadn't been 2 days since he returned home. One night, Su Weifeng suddenly received an emergency call from the army. There was a very urgent task and Su Weifeng needed to go immediately. Zhuangxuan, I have a mission and need to go out. Su Weifeng returned to the bedroom and said to Lin Zhuangxuan, who was lying on the bed playing with his mobile phone, protecting that Menkaking again. Lin Zhuangxuan rolled her eyes. She knew Menkaking and knew that her identity was not simple. She knew that Su Weifeng went to protect Menkaking some time ago, and this was not a secret. This is not a protection mission, and the confidential mission cannot be disclosed. Su Weifeng smiled slightly, but he felt bitter in his heart. He knew that this mission must be very dangerous, and he didn't know how long it would take to return, or whether he could return at all. Are you leaving? Lin Zhuangxuan was suddenly stunned, and her phone fell down. She felt that, although Su Weifeng was smiling, he was unusually serious. Either this mission was very dangerous, or he was going back to the army. Not going back to the army. It's just a temporary mission. Su Weifeng still smiled. He knew what Lin Zhuangxuan was thinking about and hurriedly said, "Is the mission dangerous?" Lin Zhuangxuan stood up and hugged Su Weifeng. "Confidential," Su Weifeng said softly. "Some things cannot be told even to the closest people. How long will it take to return?" Lin Zhuangxuan said without giving up. "Confidential," Su Weifeng still said softly. He himself didn't know when he could return. "Then I'll ask a question. If I'm right, you don't have to say anything. If I'm wrong, can you shake your head?" Lin Zhuangxuan looked at Su Weifeng expectantly, tears already welling up in her eyes. Seeing Lin Zhuangxuan's look, Su Weifeng felt a pain in his heart. After thinking about it, he nodded. He couldn't bear to refuse Lin Zhuangxuan again, and it wouldn't be considered a leak of secrets. "Are you completing the mission in China this time?" Lin Zhuangxuan asked. Su Weifeng shook his head. "Is it the United States?" Lin Zhuangxuan continued. Su Weifeng shook his head. "Is it Anguo?" Su Weifeng smiled bitterly and shook his head again. "Kingo? Is that Austria?" Lin Zhuangxuan asked almost every place he could think of, but Su Weifeng kept shaking his head like a silkworm chrysalis. "It's no wonder. There are so many countries in the world, it's abnormal to be able to guess." Lin Zhuangxuan thought for a while and finally gave up the question. Chapter 798 Must Come Back Alive. "Is this mission dangerous?" Lin Zhuangxuan asked expectantly. She hoped that Su Weifeng would shake his head, but this time Su Weifeng did not respond. "Will you come back?" Lin Zhuangxuan asked again. Su Weifeng wanted to nod and shake his head, and he did not know what to do. Lin Zhuangxuan immediately understood that this meant that Su Weifeng had no confidence, that is, he had no confidence that he could come back alive. Lin Zhuangxuan hugged Su Weifeng tightly, buried her face in his chest and cried loudly, and her tears soon wet Su Weifeng's clothes. Su Weifeng also hugged Lin Zhuangxuan tightly. Compared with the other girls, he obviously had the deepest feelings for Lin Zhuangxuan, and had been together for a longer time. Knowing that this might be the last time to hug Lin Zhuangxuan, he felt a pain in his heart, and was very reluctant. "Let's be together today. I want to give birth to a child for you. I must." Lin Zhuangxuan threw Su Weifeng on the bed. Her eyes were red from crying, but she said with extraordinary determination. No. Su Weifeng was about to speak when he was kissed by Lin Zhuangxuan. Lin Zhuangxuan knew he would refuse, and did not give him a chance to refuse. Feeling Lin Zhuangxuan's true feelings, Su Weifeng also responded enthusiastically. This was also his own true feelings, but he did not cross the bottom line. Su Weifeng hugged Lin Zhuangxuan tightly. He knew that he was destined to have no future. If he was with Lin Zhuangxuan, it would only be a temporary pleasure. It would only be bad for Lin Zhuangxuan's future and no good. He couldn't do this. Lin Zhuangxuan needed a new beginning. "Promise me that you must come back alive. You must come back alive," Lin Zhuangxuan said while crying. "I promise you that I will try my best to come back alive. You also have to promise me that if I really can't come back." Su Weifeng said softly. "No, okay, you must come back." Lin Zhuangxuan cried even harder, and her speech was a little intermittent. "I mean, if I can't come back, you must take good care of yourself. Don't make yourself too tired with the company's work. We are not short of money. Just treat it as a hobby. Find something when you have time." Su Weifeng said with a hoarse voice. He was also forcibly controlling his emotions. He wanted to say that if there is a suitable one, then marry, but he couldn't say it. He knew that Lin Zhuangxuan would not agree. Lin Zhuangxuan didn't answer, but just kept crying. Su Weifeng gently touched her hair to comfort her. Su Weifeng just hugged Lin Zhuangxuan silently. Lin Zhuangxuan's crying gradually became smaller, her voice changed to soft sobbing. The two hugged each other, cherishing this time together, which might not come again. "You must come back," Lin Zhuangxuan cried so sadly that she fell asleep crying, still sobbing softly. Su Weifeng quietly hugged Lin Zhuangxuan, smiling at the girl in his arms. His eyes were slightly wet. The tough guy also had a tender side. He gently kissed Lin Zhuangxuan on the face. His head instantly buzzed. He knew that this was a sign of entering that state. This time the feeling was particularly strong. This time the repair effect must be better than any other time. But he suppressed this feeling with his true energy. This may be his last moment with Lin Xuanxun. He can't let anything disturb him, not even healing. Finally, Lin Xuanxun had fallen into a deep sleep. Su Weifeng gently hugged Lin Xuanxun again, got up and put on his clothes, and didn't bring any luggage. This kind of mission didn't require luggage, just people to arrive. The rest of the troops would be arranged properly. He kissed Lin Xuanxun's tear-stained face again, turned around and walked out of the door. The reluctance in his eyes disappeared. There was only perseverance and a heart of steel for the country. The moment the door closed, Lin Xuanxun's tears flowed again, like a line of water that wet the pillow. It was midnight now. Su Weifeng took a taxi to the airport and then transferred to Singapore. Here he would get a new identity. As soon as he got off the plane, a man in plain clothes came up to him. Without saying a word, he directly handed Su Weifeng a backpack, a plane ticket and a passport. His nationality was changed to Singapore. Su Weifeng looked at the plane ticket and realized where his destination was. The plane ticket said K country, Madagascar, California, Gallant City, a strange city that Su Weifeng had never been to before. There was a folded note and a photo on the back of the passport. Su Weifeng came to an empty bathroom and carefully checked the ceiling and other places in the bathroom. After confirming that there were no cameras or listening devices, he opened the note. This was Su Weifeng's mission this time. The general idea was that a researcher from our special forces was missing. He disappeared when he went on vacation to country K, and the last place he appeared was in Gallant City. The information in his brain was priceless and must not be obtained by other countries. Su Weifeng knew that for this kind of mission, the missing researcher was confidential in itself and could not be investigated in a big way. Moreover, we had no way to investigate in a big way in other countries. We could only send people to investigate secretly. He looked at the photo again. The person in the photo was a man in his 40s, tall and burly, with a full beard. If you didn't know him, you really couldn't associate him with the researcher. If he said he was a thug from a certain family, it would be easier to believe. After looking at the photo several times and remembering the man's appearance, Su Weifeng tore the photo and the note into pieces and then stuffed them directly into his mouth and swallowed them. Then he walked back to the waiting room as if nothing had happened. This time, Su Weifeng's seat was in the economy class. Because he was on a mission, he couldn't attract attention. The lower the profile, the better. Soon the boarding time came. This is a large Boeing plane that can carry many passengers, and the route is long enough. This plane can carry more than 300 people. After boarding the plane from Xingzhou to Gallant City in K country, Su Weifeng quickly found his seat according to the instructions of the flight attendant. This is an aisle seat. There is another seat inside, which is still empty. No one has come yet. Su Weifeng put his backpack on the luggage rack and observed the passengers on the plane. Most of the passengers on this plane are foreigners, including white, black, and bearded foreigners, but there are very few Chinese. Soon a girl with a ponytail appeared in the aisle. This girl was wearing a white sportswear and carrying a sports bag. She looked very pure, but a little cold. People thought she was an iceberg beauty at first glance. The beauty walked directly to Su Weifeng's side, checked her ticket, and put her backpack on the luggage box. "Make way, let me pass," the iceberg beauty said coldly. Su Weifeng smiled slightly and moved his body to let the beauty in. After this beauty went in, she kept looking at the scenery outside, as if everything around her had nothing to do with her. Chapter 799 Iceberg Beauty. "Hi, beautiful lady, my name is Su Weifeng. What's your name?" Su Weifeng took the initiative to extend his hand to the beautiful lady. Su Weifeng usually doesn't have the habit of chatting up people, but when he saw this beautiful lady, he felt something special, so he took the initiative to say hello. The beautiful lady turned her head to look at Su Weifeng, but didn't say anything. She turned her head to look outside the plane. Su Weifeng smiled slightly, then withdrew his hand, and didn't care. He observed the other passengers on the plane again. Soon the plane was full of people, and the person on Su Weifeng's left quickly attracted his attention. This was a black-skinned young man wearing a white robe and a shaved head. He was very strong. If he was taller, He could play in the NBA. Generally speaking, white robes are believers of some Eastern sects, but this big bold man is obviously black, and the style is a bit wrong. At this time, the big bold man was sitting upright, also looking at the passengers on the plane. After meeting Su Weifeng's eyes, both of them smiled slightly and nodded. Some of the other passengers had U-shaped pillows around their necks, some curled up in their chairs, and some watched movies. Only this young man looked a little solemn. The entire flight takes about 10 hours. After just 3 hours of flying, many passengers were already drowsy. Su Weifeng also felt a little sleepy and fell asleep. Just after sleeping for a while, he felt a sharp pain in his waist, which made him wake up instantly. When he opened his eyes, he found that he was lying on the shoulder of the Iceberg Beauty, and the Iceberg Beauty was looking at him viciously. "Excuse me, how about I'll let you lie on my shoulder and sleep for a while?" Su Weifeng said frivolously. He was a little surprised in his heart, and he couldn't help but become solemn. The sharp pain in his waist just now was not as simple as being pinched, but was hit hard. In this position, this angle, and this punching force, this girl must not be an ordinary girl. She must have practiced before. Su Weifeng began to wonder if his whereabouts had been leaked, and this person was sent by the enemy, but he was relieved in an instant. He was on an investigation mission this time, and he had not started the investigation yet. He also believed in his leader, and it was impossible to be exposed at this step, at least not now. So this girl, no matter how different she was, had nothing to do with his mission, and she would not come for him. "Rogue, don't think about me, or you will die ugly," the Iceberg Beauty said coldly. Her eyes seemed to be looking at a dead person. "Brother, come on. Lust is human nature, do what you want." Su Weifeng was depressed, and the big bald man on the left suddenly spoke in not very pure Chinese. I don't know which dialect and Mandarin she learned, but she spoke quite fluently. The Iceberg Beauty listened and looked at the big bald man, and glared at Su Weifeng fiercely. Su Weifeng was resentful in his heart. It was not me who asked him to glare at me, but facing a woman, especially a beautiful woman, he should not care about these. Su Weifeng spread his hands to the big bald man, and made a helpless expression. "Haha, I'm Magix, what's your name, brother?" The big bald man laughed, and took the initiative to speak, and stretched out his hand. "My name is Su Weifeng." Su Weifeng said his name directly. His identity name for this mission was Su Weifeng, but his birthplace and other information had changed. However, the name did not need to be changed. China has a population of more than 1 billion, and there are tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people with the same name. Trying to find a person by name alone is like fishing for a drop of water in the ocean, a task that is simply impossible to complete. After a few simple chats about trivial topics, the two of them went back to their own business. The big bald Ajak still looked at the people around him, and the people passing by from time to time, while Su Weifeng looked around, and had nothing to do, so he simply quietly observed the Iceberg Beauty beside him. The Iceberg Beauty suddenly stood up, hooked her finger at Su Weifeng when she came out, smiled, and then walked straight to the bathroom. Su Weifeng was stunned. This plot was fast food. He had only seen it on TV, but it happened to him today. He was a little unbelievable. "Brother, come on, stand up." The bold Ajax also saw this scene, blew a whistle, and shouted excitedly to Su Weifeng in dialect. Su Weifeng was embarrassed this time. The passengers around him heard the bold Ajax's shout, and looked at Su Weifeng with amusement. A young man in front of him looked back at Su Weifeng with envy. He had seen the beauty before. She had a good face, a good figure, and a temperament that was definitely hard to come by. It was a pity that this good thing was not his, especially with a tigress by his side. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Su Weifeng couldn't pretend not to see it this time. A man couldn't say no, so he stood up and followed the beauty. "I want to see what this woman wants to do." Su Weifeng walked to the front and could still hear the whistle coming from behind. It must be the big bald man. He couldn't help but frown. Why was he more excited than me, as if he was the one coming? The Iceberg Beauty quickly entered the plane's bathroom. Before entering, she looked back at Su Weifeng with a smile on her face. Su Weifeng walked to the bathroom. Finding that the bathroom was not locked, Su Weifeng tried to turn the door, and it opened. As soon as the door opened, a slender jade hand reached out, grabbed Su Weifeng's collar, and dragged him in fiercely, and then the door slammed shut. "Do you want to pick me up?" The iceberg beauty spoke for the first time, her voice as sweet as a silver bell. "Yes. I wonder if I have the chance," Su Weifeng said frivolously. He wanted to see what this beauty was up to. Su Weifeng said as he opened his arms and hugged the beauty with an evil smile on his face. "A chance? That depends on whether you have the strength." The iceberg beauty smiled slightly, and Su Weifeng immediately thought of a picture. That is, spring has come, and in the morning sunshine, a budding flower suddenly blooms, bathing in the cool morning sunlight. But before Su Weifeng had time to fantasize for long, a fierce elbow hit Su Weifeng's chest fiercely, and this elbow was accompanied by a strong wind. Su Weifeng didn't want to be stupid and endure this. It's not clear whether he can be hurt, but it will definitely hurt. He doesn't have the tendency to be masochistic. Su Weifeng wanted to dodge, but the space in the bathroom on the plane was too small, and there was no place to dodge. Suddenly, he had an idea, and punched the beauty in the chest, preparing to attack and defend. This trick really worked. The iceberg beauty's face turned cold. She didn't expect this man to hit her, so she had to change her tactics. "Rogue. Looking for death," the iceberg beauty said fiercely. Chapter 800 I like women. The iceberg beauty's moves were fierce and ruthless. If it were an ordinary man, he would have been lying on the ground by now. Su Weifeng looked at the iceberg beauty with a smile, and from time to time they would have physical contact. The iceberg beauty was so angry that her pretty face turned slightly red. She was ashamed and angry. She originally wanted to teach this man a lesson in this bathroom, but things did not go as she imagined. Instead, she suffered more. Su Weifeng did not want to take advantage, but the space was limited. Instead of being unable to avoid the beauty's attack, getting close was undoubtedly a good way to defend. Good go ahh. It's so intense. We'll go too. You're so careless. It affects us. We are on the plane. That's exciting. Mom, what's that noise in the bathroom? The bathroom is broken. It's being repaired. The passengers near the bathroom heard the noise and talked about it. Some shouted excitedly. Some whispered condemnation. AHH. The plane encountered air currents and suddenly started to shake violently. Su Weifeng lost his balance and fell directly on the iceberg beauty, pushing her hard against the bathroom door, causing her to scream. The iceberg beauty's face was already red, like a ripe apple. She was even embarrassed. If it wasn't for her face, she would have screamed that it was indecent. Dong dong dong, the bathroom door was knocked. Su Weifeng was stunned for a moment, still maintaining the posture just now, and the iceberg beauty stopped screaming. "Two passengers, the bathroom is a public place. Please don't occupy it for too long and affect other passengers' use." The voice of the stewardess came from outside the door. The iceberg beauty pushed Su Weifeng away, opened the door and walked out. Su Weifeng followed with a smile. Along the way, both the flight attendants and passengers saluted the two of them, talked and laughed from time to time, and the iceberg beauty's ears were red. She was misunderstood and had no way to explain. Back to the seat, the big bold Ajax excitedly gave Su Weifeng a thumbs up, very excited. "Brother, it's amazing. I heard everything you did here." Ajax danced excitedly and glanced at Su Weifeng with a lecherous look. "I like women." Su Weifeng was looked at by the big bold Ajax, and he felt a chill. Could this big bold guy be interested in me? There are quite a lot of bold people like this. It's scary to think about it, and he subconsciously moved to the right. Feeling Su Weifeng approaching, the iceberg beauty gnashed her teeth. She hadn't taken advantage of Su Weifeng in the bathroom just now, so she stretched out her slender jade hand, pinched the soft flesh on Su Weifeng's waist, and twisted it hard. Su Weifeng was still thinking about avoiding the big bold man, and didn't notice the iceberg beauty. The sudden severe pain made him cry out in pain. Seeing Su Weifeng's appearance, the iceberg beauty let go of her hand with satisfaction. The big bold Ajax was stunned, and then he understood in an instant that he was considered a gay. He was immediately full of black lines. "I'm straight." Ajax's dialect came out again. "Haha, that's good, that's good." Su Weifeng knew that he was overthinking, so he was relieved. At this time, the flight attendant had already started to distribute drinks, and the plane was noisy again. Suddenly, the plane began to shake violently. This was different from the usual airflow fluctuations, but like a roller coaster, some people who didn't wear seat belts were thrown to the ground. "What's going on? What's going on?" a middle-aged white man shouted, questioning the flight attendant. But no one answered him. The stewardess who was distributing drinks had fallen down and hadn't gotten up yet. "Oh my god, am I going to die here? I don't want to die yet." Ajax made a cross with his right hand on his chest. The shaking of the plane gradually decreased, but it was still very violent, just not enough to throw people out. "Please return to your seats. The plane has encountered turbulence. Please return to your seats. All cabin services are temporarily suspended. The resumption time is to be determined. Please return to your seats. The plane has encountered turbulence. Please return to your seats." A slightly nervous female voice came from the plane's broadcast. After the voice sounded, the stewardesses in the cabin returned to their work area, and the broadcast was silent. "What happened? Did our plane have an accident? Damn it, I told you not to take a plane. I can't die. 55,555 help. Wow. Damn, what plane? What is the pilot doing? Don't drag me down if you want to die. Wow, cry. Why are you crying? It's so annoying." The shouting and scolding on the plane were mixed with the crying of children and women. The whole cabin was noisy. Everyone lost their calmness. The usually gentle people became hysterical. It's no wonder. In the face of death, how many people can face it calmly? Among them was Su Weifeng. At this time, Su Weifeng was also anxious in his heart, but his face was calm. He was not afraid of death. For him, death was just a matter of time, and he was always ready. He knew that there must be something wrong with the plane, otherwise it would not be so bumpy, even if it encountered air currents. At this time, the iceberg beauty looked pale and bit her lips tightly. It can be seen that she must be terrified in her heart. Su Weifeng reached out to grab the hand of the iceberg beauty, trying to comfort her. The iceberg beauty was stunned and subconsciously withdrew her hand. This time she didn't care about this pervert. Ajax was still chattering in a low voice, and no one knew what he was muttering. Although he was a little nervous, he was not as hysterical as others. Su Weifeng unbuckled his seat belt and stood up. He was going to the front to see the situation. It was not a solution to sit here and wait for death. Even if he couldn't escape this time, he had to understand what was going on. "Brother, what are you doing?" Ajax saw Su Weifeng stand up at this time and immediately called him. "I'm going to the front to see," Su Weifeng said as he walked forward. "Wait, I'll go too," Ajax said, and stood up and chased after Su Weifeng. Just after walking a few steps, the turbulence of the plane became smaller and smaller, and gradually became stable. The passengers on the plane were all stunned. After a while, the plane was still flying steadily. Suddenly many people cheered, and they all felt like they had been reborn after a disaster. "I won't take a plane next time." Ajax let out a long sigh. Su Weifeng and Ajax returned to their seats. The plane was fine, and Su Weifeng didn't need to go to the front to check the situation. However, he still had some doubts in his heart, and wanted to know what the plane had just experienced. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.